ride this morning. Together, let's embark on this transformative voyage of self-discovery and societal change.
In a world where silence often shrouds mental health issues, let our collective voices and artistic expression serve as a testament to the importance of addressing the vital aspect of human existence.
Without further ado, we invite Dr. Ashima Narula to extend a unique experience to our guests and attendees called Experience and Express. Dr. Ashima is an expressive art therapist and psychologist. She is the founder of Therapy Palette, a mental health clinic in New Delhi. Her diverse background as an educator, psychologist, and expressive art therapist brings an exclusive blend to the table. She is associated with the European Graduate School as Ambassador of India. Ma'am, the stage is yours.
Please welcome her with a loud round of applause.
Hi everybody. How you guys are doing? Okay, before we start, I really want you to have a big round of applause for the team of Mental Health Festival. So it's possible for us to be here and gather. मुझे आवाज नहीं आई. Be a little louder. Okay, so you already had my introduction. My name is Dr. Ashima and I'm an expressive arts therapist. You guys know what expressive art therapy is? Raise your hands. How many of you know what expressive arts therapy is? You know, okay, very less. All right, how about I give you a starter today on how dance movement actually works? Do you want to see? Do you want to participate? Okay, so I want you guys to stand up wherever you're sitting. And once you stand up, look at your right, look at your left, and give a high five and say hi to your friends. Behind you, in front of you, give a high five and say hi. Rome, take a circle. Wherever you're standing, take a circle. And just say hi to everybody. Good job. Okay, so before I introduce you with the starters of how dance movement works, you will follow what I do. Great? Okay. Raise your hand as much as you can and just explore with your fingers. Just one hand, the right hand. Yes. Get it down. Take the another hand. Stretch it as much as you can. And down. Take both the hands. And see how it feels to just wiggle. And take a circle. And now say hi. Good job. Okay, we know how to take long deep breaths. Yes. So we take a deep breath from our nose and we exhale from our mouth. Inhale and exhale. One more time. Inhale and exhale. One last time. Inhale and exhale. And now we are going to do the movement with the breathing. So we are going to gather with inhaling and just drop with exhaling. Can we? Okay, gather and exhale. With both the hands, gather and exhale. One last time, gather and exhale. Good job. This will make sense now, and let's move to a little more interesting dance movement starter. Right? Are you excited? Okay. What do we do is take your index finger, look at your index finger. Think that this is your pencil. have any art tool today, and this is your pencil, and we're going to draw. We're going to draw our own tree, starting from the roots to the stem to the branches, leaves, be it smaller leaves, larger leaves, big, small, any texture, any shape, any size. You have flowers on your tree, you have fruits, whatever. We are going to make it. So as we raise the volume, let's explore how our tree looks like. Start. Just go around, see how will you make your tree. How does it look like? How broader it can be. Your tree can also touch another person's tree. It can overlap. The branches can cross. Of course, we are friends, not enemies. Just explore around, see how long the branches are. Add textures to it. Trees cannot talk, you know, we are non-verbal. Great. Now, because we have sketched our tree, we did? Great. Imagine these are your paint brushes. Every size, every shape, whatever you want. Both here. Dip your hands in any paint you want, any color, and start painting your tree. Right? You can also add elements of painting the sky, probably more petals to it, colors to it. See what all do you require to paint. So as we raise the volume, we're going to paint our tree and the sky. Yeah? Okay, go ahead and paint. Paint as beautifully as you can because this is the paintbrush. You need to use some water. You can use water to dip your brushes and keep painting. We can also paint our friends' trees. We cannot spoil it, but we can paint it. Keep painting, add some colors to it. The tree is not only supposed to be green, but it can be of any color you want. We cannot just paint the front, so probably you have to move and paint the whole circle, the stem. Or it looks blank at the back and colored at the front. This is how a tree looks like. All right, good job. Just stand in front of your tree, not in front of your friend's tree, of course. In front of your tree, see how does it look like to you? What is the color and the size of the tree? What have you added to your tree? Leaves, flowers, fruits, or some different texture or symbol which does not exist in real life trees probably? Just see, and probably those are your strengths and coping mechanisms which you have portrayed on the tree. Just have a reflection, and once you see this, take a deep breath in again and exhale and sit wherever you were sitting. So how did you like it? The starter on movement. Feels a little fresh? Yes. You know, creative movement is is something which is a psychotherapy which actually helps you to dive into various levels of human functioning, be it physical or cognitive or emotional or social or whatnot. Yeah. And trust me when I say this, starting from conception till now, whatever we have been seeing, hearing, all the experiences are actually being stored here in our memories. And expressive arts therapy actually give us that push and encouragement to actually bring those memories out, to heal and to grow and to build your hope and optimism in life. Right? Okay, because we said hi to each other, we have to say bye to each other also. So how about you look at your right and left and say bye? And just tell each other thank you for letting me in and helping me paint my tree. And give a high five to each other. It's not a low five, it's a high five. No, I can't still see the high five. And high five to people behind you. Because the branches were meeting each other, so we need to appreciate and thank. High five to people in front of you. All right, thank you so much for being so courageous and helping me out to give you a starter on dance movement. I am there at Career Fest today for the whole day, and I would love to meet each one of you in person also. It was very nice talking to each one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for the exceptional perspective and experience you brought to us. We are deeply grateful for your presence here today and for your unwavering commitment to the cause of mental health. So, before we move on to our next segment, I would just like to ask everybody, how has your experience been with what you just witnessed? Had anybody experienced expressive arts before? Can I get a raise of hands for that? Anybody who would like to share their experience?
Moving ahead, we now invite you to delve into a crucial dialogue, a conversation that is not just about healthcare, but about a fundamental human right. Is it beautiful that we have gathered here today to fulfill the combined sense of purpose of making mental health a universal human right? Or is it, well, at least a little unfortunate that it's still in the works?
The recognition of mental health as a human right is a call to honor our shared humanity, to break down the barriers of stigma and to build a world where every individual can enjoy a full spectrum of human rights. It is a promise of empathy, inclusion, and dignity, a promise that transcends borders and backgrounds, and one that is long overdue. In embracing mental health as a human right, we take a significant step towards a world where the well-being of the mind is as valued as the well-being of the body, where no one suffers in silence, and where compassion and understanding prevail.
Today, we are honored to have with us a panel of luminaries who have dedicated their lives to advancing this cause of mental health care in the country. Allow us to introduce the esteemed panelists discussing the topic roadblocks and opportunities in making mental health a fundamental human right. First, we have Shubhrata Prakash ma'am, an officer with the Indian Revenue Service who is currently posted as Commissioner of Income Tax at New Delhi. She is the author of the best-selling book, The D Word, A Survivor's Guide to Depression. She is a mental health advocate and has spoken at various international and national forums about her lived experience as well as the need to include mental health and psychological disability in societal discourse. In the Income Tax Department, she has worked in areas of assessment of small businesses, corporate taxation, internal vigilance, and ICI.
Next, we have Mr. Ishant Rana, a passionate advocate who brings a very unique perspective to this discussion. Ishant is a clinical psychologist and a psychotherapist. After graduating from NIMHANS Bangalore, he is currently serving as a clinical director of Alpha Drug and Psychiatric Rehabilitation Center. He is an advocate of human rights in mental health treatments and raises his voice for mental health professionals in India. And of course, as some of you might know, he makes memes.
Next, we have Richa Vashisht ma'am, a name synonymous with compassion and change, who is also on our panel today. An integrative psychotherapist from India, Richa has been offering mental health support for over 9 years. Richa's diverse perspective in her work stems from her master's degree in clinical psychology from SNDT University and experience working in both public and private sectors. As an independent practitioner, Richa primarily provides individual therapy and relationship counseling for monogamous and polyamorous clients. They specialize in a range of areas including LGBTQIA+, perinatal mental health, trauma, borderline personality disorder, workplace mental health, family systems, and intimate partnerships. She holds monthly support groups for people living with BPD and queer individuals.
Last but not the least, we have Mr. Sayan Chaudhary, who plays a pivotal role as an educator in the Young India Fellowship Program, where he leads the course of education, literacy, and justice. He is one of the founding members of AINA, an initiative to help encourage critical reflection on educational experiences among students, educators, and anyone engaged with the question of education. Currently, the team creates content on social media platforms, primarily Instagram, to share research-based perspectives on education and document the experiences of students and teachers. They aim to build conversations on how we can reimagine education as an empowering and transformative experience for all, and not just a privileged few. AINA has also been the recipient of the Linkcom grant, DEF India Social Media for Empowerment Award, and selected for UP, the Institute's project on strengthening data ecosystems in Indian schools. With a community of 11,000 plus people on Instagram, AINA is connected closely and routinely collaborates with a diverse community of teachers, institutional administrators, students, researchers, and young professionals.
These 4 individuals are not just experts, they are champions of a cause that touches each and every one of us. In the upcoming discussion, they will illuminate the challenges that have stood in the way of recognizing mental health as a basic human right that has been fundamental to all. They will also shed light on the opportunities we can seize, the paths that we can pave to ensure that mental health is not just a privilege but a birthright for every individual.
The panel will be moderated by Ms. Shrishti Asthana, also popularly known as Words of a Psychologist on Instagram. She is a psychologist and mental health advocate and has been extensively working with a diverse and rich work experience at organizations like AIMS. She is currently a consultant at a Perspective Psychiatric Center and an executive in Mental Health Foundation India. Without further ado, let us welcome our panelists to the stage with a warm round of applause.
Let the discussion begin as we explore the paths towards making mental health a fundamental human right.
Welcome to one and all. Let's start the panel discussion for today, which is moving from barriers to solutions with respect to systemic issues in making mental health a universal right. So how many of us agree that mental health is a universal right? Show of hands, please. Okay, great. Thank God no one opposed that. How many of us feel that in ground reality it's not a universal right? आपके हिसाब से वो accessibility नहीं है अभी. So just think about various roadblocks and barriers, and at the end of this you can ask specific panelists specific questions, okay, with their area of specialization. So I would request Shayon to start on the subject, and before he does, I'm so sorry, I just want to say a small bit on the subject. So in today's day and age, I think there's a lot of polar thinking, black and white thinking, what is right, what is wrong, and there is a lot of noise in spaces like social media. Everyone here is taking social media and using it in the best way possible. Ishan sir through memes, Shayon throwing light on education, Richa speaking on sensitive issues that people don't even want to talk about, even in the mental health space. And Shubhrata ma'am, who is a living example of what it is like to survive mental health challenges and still thrive and do best for society. So I am really grateful to be here, and I'm really thankful to MHF for this panel. And sorry, Shayon, no, your turn.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction and for encouraging a conversation on the barriers, because I think we need to begin by thinking about what kinds of barriers exist. And, you know, through the show of hands, it seems as if most of you are either witnessing or experiencing or are aware of multiple barriers that exist in sort of making mental health something that's accessible, something that empowers us, and something which is embedded within institutional practice. So I'm going to talk from the perspective of educational spaces, and I think that's where my experiences have been gathered. So in the introduction, it was mentioned I'm part of an initiative called AYNA, and what we do is we talk about educational experience through comics and through visual stories. And we go to different institutes and we read educational research, and we see that, okay, students are really struggling, right? You come into a classroom and there are students who are feeling disconnected from each other, who may be feeling various kinds of anxiety and stress, students who are feeling invisible, right? Who feel that, okay, I am part of this physical space, but actually, nobody is really looking at me. There is a lack of recognition, right? And we try to understand, okay, how is this experience, right, connected to various social and structural factors? How is this connected to, for example, how the institution operates? How is this connected to how teaching happens and how teaching practices are designed? How is it connected to curriculum, right? The syllabus that you study. So I think the first thing I want to talk about is when we think of mental health in education, and I'm speaking primarily from higher education because that's the space I am sort of part of right now. Mental health is like a flashpoint, right? It's a conflict between teachers, administrators, and students. Right? Mental health as a word, it comes up very strongly when there is a crisis, right? Either when we are thinking of student suicides, when we are thinking about different kinds of, let's say, severe stress and panic disorders when students are demanding extensions, right, for assignments, or saying that, okay, I'm struggling and I'm not able to really do my work. And at that moment, mental health becomes a conversation, right? Now, in a way, it's good because the conversation is growing, right? And there are more and more people, especially younger people, who are talking about the need to acknowledge mental health. But at the same time, I'm saying this for higher education institutes, but this is also true for schools. We know there is a severe lack of infrastructure, right? We don't have the facilities. We don't have the physical spaces themselves, right? Like a room in a college, right, with equipment, with personnel, right? Even when we have institutes are understaffed, there are very few counselors, there are very few mental health practitioners who are able to support the needs of thousands of students, right? And this problem is especially more when you think of public universities and big public universities, right? Then there is another barrier, which is that there is a lack of sensitization of teachers and staff, right? And even the larger student body. I have so many colleagues, for example, who will say that students are talking about mental health, and they already say that with a kind of suspicion, right? With a kind of skepticism. So these barriers exist. So when these barriers exist, we know, okay, immediate solutions are we need more funding, we need better policies, we need more infrastructure. We also need trained personnel, right? We need therapists and practitioners who are also trained in a socially intersectional understanding of mental health, right? Now, in terms of what we need to do, I feel I want to just emphasize a couple of approaches, and then we can come back. And I think that the first thing to think about is, okay, there are many things to be done, but we need to think of what should be our approach, right? What should be our basic principles for thinking of mental health interventions? Now, the first one, I would say, is to think of not moving away, but I would say moving from an emphasis on just biomedical approaches to more intersectional socio-cultural approaches, right? Now, what does this mean? Now, in educational spaces, students are coming from society, right? They're coming with a set of social experiences. Now, a student comes into a classroom, and let's say they're feeling disconnected from another student. They're feeling disconnected because, let's say, they're not able to speak in English or in a language that's considered smart or cool or important in the classroom, right? There are different inequalities of class, caste, gender, and so on, right? With which students are also coming into the classroom, right? So to think of where is the student's sense of stress or worry is coming from, we also need to understand how are they interacting with their social environment. We also need to understand the kind of social location they're coming from. Now, in an educational space, it also goes beyond that, right? So one part of it is looking at your social location. But then, in an educational space, something like teaching, or what we call pedagogy, right? How teaching happens, right? Pedagogy also plays a role. So when we think of designing, let's say, mental health interventions, we also have to think of how do we collaborate with teachers in order to think of designing, let's say, inclusive classrooms, in order to have more compassionate, more dialogue-based pedagogy, right? And as I was mentioning earlier, how do you also sensitize teachers to not have an immediate suspicious reaction, but instead a more informed reaction, right? We also have to think of curriculum and assessment. So just to go back to the example on using English in the classroom. So when a student is struggling to speak in English, a student is also, as we find, talking to students, they're experiencing shame. They experience a deep sense of shame, and your heartbeat is increasing. You are unable to make eye contact. you're not able to speak, right? Now, when a student experiences shame, how do you ensure that this emotion or feeling doesn't grow, intensify, and take over the student and in fact make it worse for the student, right? Now, you need to work at the level of perhaps developing policies where you have, more, let's say, accessible English, more democratic English being used and promoted, right? You need teachers to be aware that, okay, the student may be struggling and maybe I need to sort of change the line of conversation, right? Now, I'm just giving you one moment, but there can be many such moments that happen every day in a classroom setting. So the work of sort of mental health practice is then always connected to the question of teaching practice or curricular practice. The other thing I want to sort of focus on, then I'll sort of wrap up, is that when we think of designing interventions, now today, whenever mental health comes up as a problem, we think of it as centered on the individual. That the individual is experiencing some mental health issue, right? So any intervention we think of or any response we think of is again it's about the individual, right? So we are thinking, okay, how do we sort of provide the best kind of therapy or support to the individual? However, it is also important to start thinking of mental health interventions as community interventions and not just centered on the individual, right? So, for example, rather than simply managing crisis of an individual, can we think of more socially transformative practices that we develop? What does that mean? Now, in an educational community, there are questions that all of us are interested in. We are interested in, for example, thinking of how to become more confident, how to speak better, right? How to exercise choice with more agency, how to be good decision makers, right? How to have healthy relationships. Now, all of these questions are questions related to the community, right? Because we are going to build relationships with each other. And if our relationships are going to be based on principles of compassion, on care, on understanding, then we need to do this work as community, right? So again, to move away from perhaps thinking of, okay, here's a problem and let's solve it for the individual, how do we make healthy, let's say, how do we kind of make being mentally healthy an aspiration for the institution? So rather than a problem, how do we think of it as an aspiration, right? And so I'll just give a couple of examples and then I'll pause. So one is, let's say when we think of this whole project of how to make people sit with their emotions, notice their emotions, articulate their emotions, and work through, whatever, let's say, vulnerability or distress that you may experience. Now, to do this, we also need to think of something like literacy or language learning, right? So I'll give an example as a teacher. As a teacher, I am coming into the class, and sometimes when students are not responding, I'm feeling so many emotions. I'm feeling insecure that students don't take me seriously. I'm feeling invalidated. There's no validation from the student, right? Now, this may have to do with my family life. This may have to do with my previous experiences, right? Whether I've received recognition in life or not. Now, at that moment, if I'm not able to understand my emotion and articulate it, then I have no way to sort of deal with it, right? So then the project of thinking of how to address this specific problem, right, of the teacher dealing with their emotions, we have to think of perhaps community level literacy practice, right? We have to think of how do we all develop the vocabulary, the narratives, the analytic capability to think about how teacher emotion is linked to your social context, it's linked to your social environment, it's linked to labeling different kinds of emotions you have, right? So this is sort of one example of, let's say, what it may look like. But to wrap up, I think, the question that I'm personally more interested in as an educator is what enables people within educational institutions as well as other institutions, to think of, becoming more aware, more informed, more self-reflective, and rather than simply managing a crisis, how do you make being mentally healthy an aspiration, right? So yeah, I'll pause.
All right, thank you so much. And as someone who's worked in the school system, in a pilot project, the feedback I got from the students, for the teachers, वो तो बड़ी अच्छी मैम है, बड़े अच्छे सर हैं, हम हमेशा म्यूजिक रूम में रहना चाहते हैं. We don't want to leave that space. That is security. And when I interacted with those teachers, what I saw was emotional transparency, honesty, and ability to accept their own vulnerabilities and shortcomings and be transparent. That's it. That's the recipe for a really good teacher. And I've witnessed this firsthand. Thank you so much for elucidating on these points so wonderfully. So picking from, a point that you said, I think my question to Richa is, based on what he said, I have witnessed this in the healthcare system, especially in psychiatry. जब हम egosyntonic और dystonic की बात करते हैं, like Shayon said, that अगर होमवर्क के लिए एक्स्ट्रा डे चाहिए, सारे बच्चों ने कर लिया, तुम ऐसे क्या स्पेशल केस हो, राइट? प्रॉब्लम सबकी ज़िंदगी में आता है, तुम इतना नाटक क्यों कर रहे हो? दैट इज़ द एटीट्यूड ऑफ अ लॉट ऑफ एजुकेटर्स. इवन दो नाउ एजुकेटर्स आर चेंजिंग बिकॉज दे हैव नो ऑप्शन, because there are consequences for their actions, and parents are a little more involved, so they're afraid of being sued, etc. But that frustration, it does seep in. Okay, so the medical system, healthcare system, and the hardcore psychiatry system, this is not my question on psychiatry, but this is a school of thought that also exists. That if we, create space for students or for individuals in an academic institution or organizations whose needs are a little different than what is considered mainstream, it's considered as, not acceptable, not within the norms, something that is diagnosable. What do you feel on that?
Hello, thank you for the question. So my name is Richa, my pronouns are she and they, and I have an interesting example to share with Srishti's question. How many of you like music over here? Raise your hands. Okay, a lot of us like music. Think about your favorite band. Think about your favorite band, any musical band that you really like. And if you have to think about that band, every musician plays a different role, right? You have somebody who would probably play the violin, koi guitar play karega, koi, somebody will sing, there'll be a vocalist, somebody on the drums. All of these musicians together make that lovely favorite band of ours, right? Like I might think of this lovely Indian band called When Chai Met Toast. I don't know if you all have heard of them. And if I have to now, in the world that we live in, and keeping Srishti's question in mind, कि हम एक particular norm के साथ रहते हैं. Now imagine if I have to ask the guitarist to be the vocalist, the drummer to take on the piano, the pianist to start playing the drums, for example. There's going to be chaos on the stage, right? Is there going to be chaos on the stage? Will they be able to do it very naturally, right? When we look at the musical band, that's how we're kind of understanding how neurodiversity works. What is neurodiversity? Something very important for us to understand, because working with ND folks and queer folks are two very important spaces for me. As a queer person and a neurodivergent person myself, I have one very simple thing to say, is that I've experienced the world very differently. And keeping in mind that I'm a part of a world where I'm expected to conform in a certain way. I'm expected to talk a certain way, to behave a certain way, to, you know, experience things a certain way, right? So, for example, I experience emotions very intensely. That does not mean कि मैं गलत हूँ और आप सही हो, right? उसका ये मतलब नहीं है. उसका ये मतलब है कि I am a part of a society where my intense emotions are not very accepted very well, right? So, back in 2018, I received a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, right? So, I was given a label, I was given a tag that I have BPD. अगर आप BPD पे थोड़ा research करो, आप ये भी समझोगे कि first, BPD was called emotional unstable personality disorder. So basically, I was given the tag that you're emotional unstable because you experience emotions very intensely. To add to that, you know, also taking on from what they were sharing, I was part of a society that was fairly cisgendered, heteronormative in nature. So as a queer person, I was part of a very cishet society. What is the topic we're talking about right now? Mental health as a universal human right. How I look at human right is my freedom to experience something because I'm entitled to that human right. It could mean that my freedom to expression, but as a queer person, and you could ask this question to trans people, they don't have the freedom to express their gender, right? In the society that we live in, let's talk about freedom against discrimination. We live in a society, again, even in the medical fraternity, where there's conversion therapy still happening in the society. Yes, there is, you know, there is Indian Psychiatric Society that comes up with a statement that says that conversion therapy will not be tolerated, but it is still very much happening in the society. When I look at mental health as a human right, it's about getting equal access to healthcare, equal access to family choices. As a queer person, I don't have the right to get married. I don't have the right to adopt. How is all of this from a very socio-cultural, social, going to affect my well-being? I have been where you're sitting there, right? When I was sitting over there, the journey of coming and sitting here has been very hard. It's been very hard to accept the different intersectional identities I come with, to accept that, oh, I can be a therapist, but also have lived experiences of, you know, having my own set of mental health issues. It's been a very difficult journey to accept कि हाँ मतलब mental health professional का ये मतलब नहीं है कि आप perfect हो और तो ही आप किसी को therapy provide कर सकते हो, right? So I think these things are very important for us to understand, especially if you decide to work with queer folks, you decide to work with ND folks. And something to then keep in mind is, an approach I use in practice is not to look at things from a very pathological lens, but to look at the distress that a person is experiencing, right? Instead of calling me emotional unstable, let's understand what emotions am I experiencing? How do I experience my emotions? I look at that as also my strength. I feel that I'm a very empathetic person. Now that's coming because I experience the world maybe as differently as some of you might experience it as well. So yeah, that's something that kind of comes to my mind. Thank you.
So wonderfully spoken with great honesty, and that's exactly what I hoped it to be and expected it to be. Thank you so much, Richa. Now, speaking on the subject of neurodivergence, how many of us know what neurodivergence is? Show of hands. The younger students from school, do you know, have you ever heard this vocabulary, neurodivergence? On Instagram? अच्छा, जिन्होंने Instagram से जाना है वो हाथ ऊपर करे. अच्छा. And कितनों को स्कूल में, कॉलेज में ये टर्म मतलब पता चला? Okay. Not in school. Okay, all right. Okay, so neurodivergence is a very important terminology that we're beginning to accept and really highlight in society based on individual differences, how we are all different and all equally important members in contributing to society. With that in mind, ma'am, you've been wonderfully honest about your journey with neurodivergence and being a part of a government system, a wonderful system that is working pretty well and working pretty hard, but also a system that can be extremely traditional and it can have very rigid ideas of a box, जिसमें एक IAS officer ऐसा होना चाहिए, या मतलब एक इंसान वैसा होना चाहिए, etc. There are a lot of rigid notions, and I think the more younger generation is creeping into the system, the better it is. But I'm sure it must have been difficult in the initial stages of your journey, because in all the training programs that I've witnessed in government sector, I mean, I can see the age groups and how their thinking is different, right? So please do elaborate on that. And my specific question to you is, Shayan had mentioned about policies. So there is a group that is, that says that government needs to acknowledge the issues. It needs to take charge. It needs to do things better. It is not thinking for us, right? And then there are people in society. Now, these are not my opinions. I'm just trying to raise questions that I've heard from different parts. And on the other side, we have people who say that, कि the government is बस घूस खाने के लिए है और वो कुछ कर नहीं रहे. So we have all these mixed schools of thought. Where do we stand on this subject when it comes to mental health and policy? Can you, on your journey and these two aspects?
Hello everyone, and first of all I want to thank the Mental Health Foundation of India for this opportunity to be here today and speak to all of you. So thank you Srishti for that question, and I will answer it through what I have planned to speak to you about. So today, since we are talking about mental health and human rights, my first question to all of you and to the society at large is, where are these humans? Where are the human beings with mental disorders or mental illness that we are talking about, whose human rights we are talking about? वो कौन से इंसान हैं जिनके मानव अधिकारों की हम बात कर रहे हैं? People like me are few and far, people don't speak up about their mental health struggles. Most people with mental disorders or mental illness, you will find them, when I ask the question, where are they? You will find them hiding in a dark corner somewhere, or maybe even in plain sight, but with this guilty secret inside. That's how society sees it, a guilty secret to hide. And as Richa said, that your emotions or your distress is not our problem, it's your problem. So if you have a mental health condition, you manage it, you hide, we don't want to see you. And this is something that happened to me as well, the question that Srishti asked right now. When I first spoke about having been diagnosed with major depressive disorder in 2012 in office, because I wanted leave to take care of my mental health. I was not even able to get out of bed at that point of time. And what I heard was, ye kaam nahi karna chahti hai. It's just an excuse to not work. She's not interested in working in this office, and she wants to transfer to a more lucrative place, as you mentioned that also, right? Ki sarkari log ghoos lete hain, whatever. So she wants to go to a lucrative place, and she doesn't want to work in this office. She's making excuses. So you can just imagine the tough battle that I had to face to kind of create the space. And I'm sorry it may sound a little immodest, but I can claim a little credit for creating this space for myself when today in 2022, last year, or 23, I can walk up all these institutions that I worked at. I can walk up to a CEO Niti Aayog. I can walk up to Chairman CBDT and say, sir, ma'am, I have this disorder. This is a book that I have written, and I just need a little accommodation in terms of my working conditions or my postings or whatever. So it's really been a tough job. It's really been a tough task. But what I would also like to say is that things have changed. From 2012 to 2023, things have changed a lot, even in the government, and with a lot of people opening up about mental health struggles, whether in the government or outside, things are changing definitely. So about policies, about government, about this whole mental health thing, how does it tie in? See, it all starts with our society, because people who are a part of the government are also a part of society. We don't come born with a government tag. We also live in the same society. We pick up the same attitudes. We pick up the same stigma. We pick up the same beliefs, myths, call it whatever. And as someone who has, I have undergone repetitive episodes of major depressive disorder. I live with anxiety disorder. I've had anxiety attacks in my workplace as well. And I also have ADHD, and I'm always very openly talking about all these issues. So the stigma that I've faced from society is, I have written it in my book as well. It's just, it's a lot. So what happens is that society sees people, the human beings. Remember, we come back to what I had asked initially. Who are these human beings whose human rights we're talking about? So society sees us as subpar humans, There are 8 billion people in the world, and what if even 10% have mental disorders? There'll still be, 7.2 billion people on Earth. Still quite a large number to take care of. Who cares about this 10%? And that's exactly how we are actually asking this question now. Because we are seen as flawed humans, we are seen as damaged, we are seen as subpar. We're not even seen as humans. So whether it is in terms of policies, whether it is in terms of implementation of policies, because incidentally in India we have mental health policy of 2013, we have a very progressive Mental Health Care Act of 2017, but when it comes to implementation, I don't know. And I'm speaking in my individual capacity because I don't officially work on this, so I professionals, empathetic mental health care professionals. Because even as a civil servant, even as a middle-aged woman, the amount of stigma that I have endured at the hands of psychiatrists and psychologists. I mean, there's only one Dr. Nandkumar. There are, for every Dr. Nandkumar, there are so many stigmatizing professionals. I need access to better medication, which works for me. I need access to people who actually know therapy and don't walk out of college and open a shop and say, I'm a counselor. I need someone, a counselor once told me, a psychologist once told me, you write sad books, that's why you have depression. My book isn't even sad, by the way. It's just a book to give information about depression and my own journey. So we need a little more of everything, but the first and foremost thing that comes to mind is we need to be treated like human beings. We need to be at par, treated at par with any other human being who has or may not have a disability of any kind, because we are humans. It's only when we start being counted as human beings that our mental health and our human rights are really going to be acknowledged, that we have the right to good treatment, we have the right to respect, and that's something that I keep trying to do. I'm sure, I guess all of you will do the same. Thank you.
Ma'am, the sheer honesty in your voice was pretty moving. I'm pretty sure it must have touched a lot of, chords. Okay, how many of us have been told that ये तुम जो पढ़े रहते हो ना रात भर या लेट के जो तुम टीवी देखते हो इसी वजह से तुम आलसी हो रहे हो, तुम गधे हो, लो मूड है, अगर मन खराब चल रहा है तो वॉक पे नहीं जाते, बाहर नहीं जाते, नहाते धोते नहीं हो, इसलिए परेशान हो तुम. How many of us have been told that? I've been told that. Honestly. Very nice. Seconding your point, ma'am, I think they've all experienced that. So thank you for your sheer honesty. And we do require better mental health professionals. I absolutely agree. Initially, I fell in love with clinical psychology. I still do, but I'm terrified to pursue it further because I'm afraid of becoming a stigmatizer. Because of how much we speak in terms of the medical model, okay? So, but I've seen one unconventional example of a really good psychologist, and that is Ishan sir, aka Therapost. I'm sure all mental health professionals know him. Shout out to sir. And I think we need to invite sir more. वो meme page के बाहर ज़्यादा दिखते नहीं है. But yeah, I think sir can definitely throw light on how the mental health system can be more sensitive to the psychosocial aspects, can be trauma informed, how we as humans can take accountability for creating these safe spaces that ma'am said. Right, so I am the colleague of someone. I am a part of mental health, MHF, I'm a part of Perspective Psychiatry Center, etc. So all these spaces, how to actually create that as a person, right? I think Ishan sir, with his unconventional but very balanced approach, can really elucidate on that, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Srishti. Am I audible? I would like to ask, how many of you are master's student here? Oh, a big number. Graduation, like BA program, BSc programs. And 12th, 10th. Oh, great, great, all right. So, मैं थोड़ी बातें सबकी लेना चाहूँगा. मेरे पापा को आज भी पता है कि मैं एक मेंटल हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल हूँ, एक रिहैबिलिटेशन, एक साइकोलॉजिकल सेंटर के लिए काम करता हूँ. किसी दिन शाम को अगर मैं उन्हें फ़ोन करूँ और बोलूँ कि पापा आज का दिन तो बहुत ख़राब था, पहला वर्ड, पहला सेंटेंस उसके मुंह से निकलेगा कि बेटा सुबह जल्दी उठना शुरू करो, सब ठीक हो जाएगा. जो सुबह जल्दी नहीं उठते वो सक्सेसफुल हो ही नहीं सकते कभी. एक दिन मैंने गुस्से में आके बोल दिया मुझे सक्सेसफुल होना ही नहीं है, राइट. I couldn't correct him. He said multiple times, I have heard it. I couldn't correct him. Another thing which I would share with you from my own family. First time I realized that my mom was going through depression throughout, like for a long years, when I have heard the word depression in my master's course, in a book of abnormal psychology, Carson and Bucher. First time. And then I realized, oh, तब तक तो डिप्रेशन जा चुका था. अब साइको एजुकेट करके भी कोई फायदा होने वाला है नहीं. बट अगर मुझे आज भी जरूरत पड़े तो यूपी के जिस गांव से मैं आता हूँ वहाँ 80 किलोमीटर्स तक कोई मेंटल हेल्थ फैसिलिटी आज भी नहीं है। रोड्स हैं, इंटरनेट है, शॉपिंग मॉल्स हैं, डोमिनोज भी है। यस, आई गॉट लाइक सरप्राइज व्हेन आई सॉ डोमिनोज दिस टाइम। डोमिनोज भी है, मेंटल हेल्थ फैसिलिटी नहीं है। साइकोलॉजिस्ट तो भूल जाइए, लाइक आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट कोर साइकेट्रिक फैसिलिटी, इट्स नॉट देयर। तो जहां से हम बात शुरू कर रहे हैं कि ह्यूमन राइट्स क्या चीज है, व्हाट इज ह्यूमन राइट्स? आई एम दैट ह्यूमन, आई एग्जिस्ट, so I need rights. When, if you go back into the history of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, all the reports based on that says that human rights is something for humans because they exist. I'm there, I need it. अब जब उसकी ज़रूरत आती है मुझे कि मुझे मेरे ह्यूमन राइट्स को सपोर्ट करना है, मुझे मेरे ह्यूमन राइट्स को सेफ करना है, तो मेरा जो स्ट्रक्चर है वो मुझे कैसे हेल्प कर रहा है, मेरे आसपास जो स्ट्रक्चर है वो मुझे किस तरीके से हेल्प कर रहा है। मैम ने मेंटल हेल्थ एक्ट की बात की, हम उस तरफ जाएं थोड़ा सा। हमारा स्ट्रक्चर वहाँ पे भी अननोन है, अनक्लियर है। आप इंस्टाग्राम की कोई पोस्ट उठाइए, एक रैंडम पोस्ट उठा लीजिए, आज तो लाइक आप इंस्टाग्राम खोलिए, 1000 बातें मेंटल हेल्थ के ऊपर ही हो रही हैं ऑलमोस्ट, राइट? आप उठाइए, वहाँ आपको मिलेगा कि कौन से मेंटल हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल्स होते हैं। तो पहला नाम आएगा साइकेट्रिस्ट का, दूसरा नाम आएगा क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजिस्ट का, तीसरा नाम आएगा साइकोलॉजिस्ट का। दिस इज, आई वुड से, इट्स अ प्राइवेटाइज्ड अवेयरनेस। इट्स अ प्राइवेटाइज्ड अवेयरनेस। आई एम मेकिंग दिस अवेयरनेस सो आई कैन ऑल्सो, आई एम ए क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजिस्ट, पीपल कैन कम टू मी. We are not at all talking about psychiatric social worker. Where are they? We are not talking about psychiatric nursing at all. You open your mobile, pick up any post, right? We are not picking up occupational therapist. जब तक मैं उनकी बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, तब तक मैं अपने ह्यूमन राइट्स को सेव कर ही नहीं पाऊंगा किसी भी तरीके से। एक न्यूज़ पिछले कुछ टाइम से है, इंस्टाग्राम पे है, न्यूज़ में है, कोटा, राइट? देयर वाज अ सीरीज बाय TBF, कोटा द कंपनी, it's a factory, Kota factory, yes, the Kota factory, thank you, Kota factory, yes. Everyone who is talking in from the advocacy in the mental health in context of Kota, one line is coming, they don't have counselors, or the counselor they have, they're not qualified enough, right? But the problem is not limited to this. Even today, as a mental health professional, I go and counsel all those students and teach CBT or work with them. I'm not solving the problem. Till the time I'm not working with their parents. I'm not working with the structure of entrance examination which is taking place. I'm not taking care of those entrance coaching centers which are taking hefty money. If I'm not creating a safety around that, I will take 22 sessions of cognitive behavioral therapy with that 18-year-old, 17-year-old child. I'm not doing justice to that. I am not creating a safeguard to that human rights of that child at all. So I have to do things around that. So human rights in context of mental health जब मैं देखता हूँ, जहाँ मैं हूँ, जिस जगह पे मैं हूँ, वहाँ पे आप सेव करिए। किस तरीके से करेंगे, ये जिम्मेदारी बनेगी शायद गवर्नमेंट की, पॉलिसी मेकर्स की। एंड आई एम नॉट हेयर ऑन दिस चेयर टू से दैट दोज आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल, fill in the blanks, those are responsible. We all are responsible. One of the biggest roadblock in the human rights is discrimination. When the discrimination comes, we say the people are not aware about depression, people are not aware about bipolar disorder, people are not aware about schizophrenia. लेकिन प्रॉब्लम डिस्क्रिमिनेशन की वहाँ पॉलिसी लेवल पे आएगी नहीं, वहाँ वो आएगी इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे। the institute I belongs to, I have done my studies, I can give the example of that too, but I have seen everywhere. If today you get to know that your colleague having, today you get to know that your colleague having a psychological disorder, be honest, keep your hand on your heart and say, suddenly your perception will change. Within a minute it will change. From tomorrow, if he, she, they are making any mistake in their work, you will attribute it to their problem. He has emotional unstable personality. The most common work. If an employer get to know that the employee who is giving the interview and they share in front of them that I am taking medication for depression for last 5 years, I'm sure they will think twice before giving a job. I have seen it. I've seen it. I was part of the recruitment committee in my organization. It will be a problem, for sure. Right? So, the discrimination is not at policy level. It's with me. Today, if we talk about awareness, who is giving awareness? Instagram. The sole medium of giving or spreading awareness is Instagram. Is either it is right, it's not right, is giving by Instagram only. Right. Ma'am said about the unqualified professionals. Till the time those professionals are not there, nobody can save my human rights. Recruitments are coming, advertisements are coming. Post is for clinical psychologist. Qualification they're asking, master students. There's nothing wrong being a master student. No, not at all. I was a master student at a point. Yes, exactly. Right? The thing is, if you are recruiting for a clinical psychologist, go for a proper recruitment notice. Right? For a population of 800 for 1,000, there is one counselor who's taking care. Now, if we have to deal with, everybody does not carry a psychiatric diagnosis into the hospital. No. When I was giving my MPhil entrance examination, I'll share with you, I have given 9 entrance examination before I clarified demands. 9. Out of 9, I got failed in 5. Right? A psychiatrist who I was working, she suggests that, Ishant, why don't you take antidepressants? Right? I was about to. And there was nothing wrong in that. But then, I started therapy. Of course, it was not a very conventional method of therapy, but yes, it was. And then, when my roadblocks got clear, suddenly I found my mental health is also getting better. These example of myself I'm giving you is that all the young graduates are there. If you will only think about a particular channel of mental health, which is, I would say, the biomedical model today, it won't work. All of you might have attended some internships in various hospitals. Everybody knows about ICD-10. Everybody knows about DSM-5. Everybody knows about a book of abnormal psychology. But you have to move beyond that. How many of biopsychosocial model books you know? How to work with community you know? How to provide first aid when somebody is going through a psychological problem we know? Mental health is not about an axis 1 diagnosis based on DSM-5. It moved beyond. There are 4 other diagnoses, 4 other axes are also there. So these are some of the things I'm mentioning. It's a long route. But these are some of the things, if I'm not taking care of them as a mental health professional around me, it would be really, really hard for me to safeguard the human rights in context of mental health. I think these are some of the things I have shared with you. Thank you. Thank you.
सर आप स्टार्टिंग में सीरियस बात कर रहे थे तब भी लोग हंस के ताली बजा रहे थे. Did you realize that? मतलब long overdue. I guess they don't get to interact with you as much. Did you know sir was this well spoken? He is. That's why, you know, we follow his page and everything. But to see this side of him is a real privilege. So with this, I hope you have a lot of important takeaways as to how we can all be mental health advocates and create a better system, because the system begins with us, right? With our colleagues, with our friends, with our neighbors, which are chacha, tau, padosi, dur ke rishtedar, whoever, right? Are we mirroring genuine empathy? That's a question we need to ask ourselves, regardless of who we are, where we are, and even students can make a difference. And with that, I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to thank the panelists here. Thank you for making the time. I know all of you are really, really busy. On to Ishani, our wonderful host.
Thank you, Shrishti. Thank you, panelists, for your dedication, and thank you all for being a part of this momentous conversation. We humbly request the panelists to kindly stay back on stage, and for Dr. Nandkumar sir to come on stage and felicitate the panelists.
I'm really so grateful now for all the eminent panelists to come here and share their thought process. It has a genuine impact, that I can tell you, because I know a few of them very, very personally, and they have really made a difference. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this. Since Ishant sir was talking about increasing accessibility, we'd just like to inform everybody that My Hope has been doing some great work. They have extended and they have opened newer institutes in more remote areas where mental health is not yet that accessible. Some examples would be Hardoi, Khurja in UP, 2 institutes in Rajasthan, and we have also been extensively doing workshops in psychoeducation at coaching centers, and that's just some of the efforts that My Hope has been making.
When everything is going wrong and you are struggling to carry on, I want you to know you matter. When you're feeling the hurt and pain and try your hardest to stay sane, I want you to know you matter. When you feel you've no one to care,
Hello, hello. Hi. Hello. Yeah. I'm audible now? Yes, I'm audible. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Naman. I work at Slam Out Loud. And we work with different art forms, poetry, storytelling, theater, with children. And through that art form, we build creative confidence skills into them, communications, creativity, collaboration. And we also work on social emotional learning, climate change, and gender with them. So in some time, you are going to see our children from our classrooms performing here, and the fellows who go into classrooms to teach these students to perform here. So what we do is we hire fellows from around the city who are different artists, psychologists, and educators, and they go into the classrooms to teach these students through various interactive activities. So we don't particularly are in the game of making students artists. We are not making them artists. We are not telling them, okay, become a poet, become a storyteller. We are just asking them that what are you feeling on the daily basis, and express that through an art form. If you like painting, express it through painting. If you like poetry, express it through poetry. So today we will have our 4 or 5 children performing here and 2 of the fellows performing here. Before we start, I just want to tell you a few things. So this is something called snapping. Can you all snap? Can you show snapping? Snapping? Oh, most of us know how to snap. Amazing. So whenever students perform poetry, this is something we do to support them. If we relate with something, what they are saying, so we snap. Thank you so much. I have this mic. Now I can see all of you. Amazing. So whenever you hear something out that you are relating to, you find that, oh, this is something I relate to. ये मुझे समझ आ रहा है. ये मेरे साथ भी हुआ है. यार ये तो बहुत अच्छी बात कही है. तो आप क्या करेंगे? You'll snap. You'll snap. So this is just to show appreciation to the artist, because when we clap in between, it might break the flow of the artist. जब वो perform कर रहे हैं, अगर आप बीच में ताली बजाएंगे, तो कई बार क्या होता है कि flow break हो जाता है. Okay, go down. Thank you for that. A little spooky, but okay. तो और अगर हम ये snap करते हैं, तो artist को motivation मिलता है कि अच्छा मेरी बात लोगों तक पहुंच रही है. तो उनको अच्छा लगता है कि अच्छा आगे भी बोलते हैं, आगे भी बोलते हैं. और आज जो बच्चे परफॉर्म करने वाले हैं, वो पहली बार इतने सारे लोगों के सामने परफॉर्म करने वाले हैं. दे कम फ्रॉम स्कूल्स जहाँ पे इतने बड़े ऑडिटोरियम्स नहीं होते हैं, ऑडिटोरियम ही नहीं होते हैं, छोटी छोटी क्लासेस होती हैं, और वहाँ से आज बच्चे स्टेज पे परफॉर्म करने वाले हैं. तो आई जस्ट वॉन्ट टू tell you this information to give you this context so that you can appreciate them more and motivate them more to perform at more such stages. अब इससे पहले हम performances शुरू करें, सबसे ज़रूरी बात एक होती है अपने आप को सेलिब्रेट करना. आर्ट्स कुछ भी सुनने से पहले हम अपने आप को सेलिब्रेट करना चाहिए. हम दूसरों को बहुत ज़्यादा सेलिब्रेट करते हैं, अपने आप को थोड़ी सी कमी रह जाती है कई बार प्यार देने में. तो एक छोटी सी चीज़ करेंगे. आप सबको रेनबो पता है क्या होता है? कोई बताना चाहेगा रेनबो क्या होता है? इंद्रधनुष. ओके, और कोई जवाब? रेनबो क्या होता है? ओके, स्पेक्ट्रम ऑफ कलर्स, दैट्स व्हाट यू सेड. ओके, और कोई? कितने कलर्स होते हैं रेनबो में? 7. ओके, वी नो. तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हम सबके अंदर भी बहुत सारे कलर्स होते हैं. हम भी एक रेनबो होते हैं अपने आप के अंदर, और हम अलग अलग तरह के रेनबोज हैं. तो हम अपने आप को सेलिब्रेट करने के लिए क्या करेंगे? जब भी मैं बोलूँगा रेनबो, आपको क्या करना है? पुट योर राइट हैंड अप. इसको लेफ्ट शोल्डर पे ले जाओ. लेफ्ट हैंड अप. इसको राइट शोल्डर पे ले जाओ. ठीक है, आपको अपने आप को हक करना है, और एक बड़ी सी स्माइल के साथ, बड़ी सी स्माइल दिखाओ कैसे होती है. स्माइल. आपको बोलना है मी. क्या बोलना है? इसका मतलब है आप रेनबो हैं. ठीक है, रेनबो. अपने आप को प्यार नहीं करते यहाँ पे लोग. रेनबो. अच्छे से. रेनबो. रेनबो. अमेजिंग. अब यहाँ पे लोग अपने आप को बहुत ज़्यादा प्यार कर रहे हैं, मुझे दिख गया है. तो आप परफॉर्मर्स को भी प्यार कर पाएंगे, क्योंकि शुरुआत खुद से होती है सबसे पहले. ठीक है, तो हाँ, ताली बजाना चाहता. प्लीज प्लीज प्लीज. थैंक यू सो मच. थैंक यू सो मच. ठीक है, तो मैं किसी परफॉर्मर को इंट्रोड्यूस नहीं करूंगा. वो क्या बताने वाले हैं मैं नहीं करूंगा. उनका काम बोलेगा. वो अपनी पर्सनल कहानियां बच्चे लेकर आ रहे हैं, और हमारे फेलोज लेकर आ रहे हैं. हम, क्योंकि ये स्टूडेंट लेड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, हम बच्चों के साथ काम करते हैं, तो हम बच्चे से ही शुरुआत करते हैं. तो मैं सबसे पहले स्टेज के ऊपर, लेट मी जस्ट चेक कि ये स्पूकी गार्डन के पीछे हो क्या रहा है पहले. आर वी रेडी फ्रेंड्स? Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah, this is magic now. Okay, friends. So I'll call Manvi on stage. मानवी हमारे एक स्कूल है ईस्ट दिल्ली के अंदर, शारजा के अंदर, वहां से आती हैं और मानवी आपको अपनी एक कविता सुनाने वाली है. तो प्लीज गिव अ ह्यूज राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज फॉर मानवी. माइक नहीं चल रहा. हेलो हेलो.
हेलो. आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार. मेरा नाम मानवी मिश्रा है और आज मैं आपको मानसिक स्वास्थ्य के ऊपर स्वलिखित कविता सुनाऊंगी. तो जब मैं ये कविता लिख रही थी, मेरे दोस्तों ने मुझसे पूछा कि तुम किसके ऊपर कविता लिख रही हो. मैंने जैसे ही कहा मैं मानसिक स्वास्थ्य के ऊपर कविता लिख रही हूँ, मेरे दोस्तों ने कहा, अरे तुम तो पागलों के ऊपर कविता लिख रही हो. तो ऐसी कविताएं लिखना बहुत ज़रूरी है ताकि लोगों को पता चल सके कि मानसिक स्वास्थ्य कितना ज़रूरी है. बच्चों ने जो बनने का सोचा है, उनके सपनों को क्यों ठुकराया है. समाज तो कहेगा ही मत करो इस काम को. बच्चों को खुश रहने दो, बच्चों को उनका बचपन जीने दो. क्यों कह देते हो इतनी आसानी से, बच्चों के ऊपर नहीं होता है कोई बोझ. कभी सोचा है बच्चे क्या कहना चाहते हैं. बच्चों को खुश रहने दो, बच्चों को उनका बचपन जीने दो. क्या किसी ने सोचा है उन सफाई कर्मचारियों के बच्चों के बारे में, जिन्हें स्कूल में बच्चे कहते हैं गरीब. अब तो पढ़ाई में भी रंग को डालते हो. क्या रंग से पढ़ने का हक देते हो. बच्चे अपने सपने पूरा करना चाह रहे हैं, मन की बात बताना चाह रहे हैं, पर डांट कर उनकी बातों को नहीं सुनते हो. बच्चों को खुश रहने दो, बच्चों को उनका बचपन जीने दो. नंबरों की दौड़ में खुशियों को तो भूल ही जाते हो. जो बनना चाह रहे हो वो बनने से रोक देते हो और कहते हो बच्चे तो खुश रहते हैं, कोई काम नहीं है. बच्चों को खुश रहने दो, बच्चों को उनका बचपन जीने दो. धन्यवाद.
यस, अमेजिंग. थैंक यू सो मच मानवी हमारे लिए परफॉर्म करने के लिए. मानवी के लिए एक इनोवेटिव तरह से क्लैप करते हैं, ठीक है. बबल गम क्लैप पता है किसी को? बबल गम क्लैप कैसे कर सकते हैं? नाइस, इंटरेस्टिंग. ऐसे ही है बिल्कुल, ठीक है. तो पहले बबल गम निकालना पड़ेगा, लेकिन उसके लिए सब बबल गम निकालिए. जिसके पास पॉकेट है, जिसके पास वॉलेट है, जहां से भी है, बबल गम निकाला, ठीक है. अनरैप करो उसे. हाँ, ये जो रैपर फेंक रहे हैं पीछे वाले, रैपर नहीं फेंकना है प्लीज. पॉकेट में डालिए अपने रैपर, प्लीज, गंदा नहीं मचाना है, ठीक है. अब बबल गम को अपने मुंह में डालिए. अब बबल बनाइए. अमेजिंग. थैंक यू सो मच हमारे साथ ये करने के लिए. थैंक यू सो मच मानवी हमारे लिए परफॉर्म करने के लिए. अब जितने इंपॉर्टेंट ये बच्चे हैं, उतने ही इंपॉर्टेंट वो फेलोज हैं जो क्लासरूम में जाते हैं और इन बच्चों के साथ ये काम करते हैं और उन्हें ये सब सिखाते हैं. तो अगली परफॉर्मर जो है वो हमारी जिजिविशा एक फेलोशिप है जो स्लैम आउट लाउड रन करता है, और इस फेलोशिप के अंतर्गत हम क्लासरूम्स में जाकर ये सारी आर्ट फॉर्म्स पे काम करते हैं. तो जो जिजिविशा फेलो हैं इस ईयर की, ट्विंकल, वो अब आएंगी परफॉर्म करने के लिए अपनी एक कहानी लेकर. तो ट्विंकल, प्लीज कम ऑन द स्टेज. कैन वी गिव अ ह्यूज राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज? यस. डू यू नीड अ हैंड?
Thank you, Naman. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I hope I'm audible. So, my name is Twinkle. I work as a JJ Visha Fellow with Slam Out Loud. JJ Visha का मतलब होता है जीने की चाह, the will to live. And I work in a school in East Delhi where I facilitate art-based SEL session for the kids. And our motive is कि हर बच्चा अपनी आवाज़ voice out कर सके. एंड मेरी जो विषय है अपनी बातें आगे रखना, लोगों के साथ शेयर करना इन द फॉर्म ऑफ स्पोकन पोइट्री. और आज मेरे को मौका मिला है, सो आई विल बी परफॉर्मिंग अ पोएम विच इज़ कॉल्ड ओन योर विंग्स. हियर इट गोज. You are too sensitive, I'm told. You feel things too deeply, I'm told. Just stop thinking so much about it, I'm told. So, let me tell you something today. My brain is not operated by a switch which can be turned on or off at the flick of your fingers. My brain has a programming of its own, which I'm still trying to decode, by the way, because I've been run by it for more than 2 decades now. Till 2021, I used to think that I will be a captive of the same patterns and habits for the rest of my life. I used to think that my anxiety would always win over me. I used to believe that my imposter syndrome was bigger than the courage that I held in my heart. And the will to fight this programming went to zero. I stopped fighting it. It felt useless to fight against my neural pathways that seemed to be set in stone by now. Why swim against the wave when you're bound to drown, right? And why not? I have repeated the same habits and patterns for so long. How will doing something different for one day break the patterns that have become rock solid by now? So, what do you think? Do you think I gave up? I made a deal with it. I accepted the way that I am and have been and started doing things anyway. I started following my passions and pursuing my interests, even when my hands shook and my voice trembled. I stopped using substances to numb the rush of uncomfortable feelings that came with it. I started doing things that made me feel like this was the end of the world, like raising my hand in a group full of people and speaking my mind. Even when my imposter syndrome told me that I'm not good enough to be here, right here. I started loving myself even when my brain told me that I looked a certain way and that I did not fit in here. Why do I need to fit in? I gave up on the idea of fitting in. I am not a people pleaser who will tailor my thoughts and instincts to fit into anybody's idea of somebody who is acceptable. I am my own person, no matter how weird or different or uncanny. I identify as 1,000 things, thoughts, feelings, yet I am not them. I am my own person. I may be restricted by the programming of my brain, yet I wake up every day and choose the courage to reshape it. I may look anxious and behave like a mess, like I am right now, and it might be nothing for some neurotypical people out there. But for the ones who identify as neurodivergent, we know that it's equivalent to 100 battles won. And that's our win, to do it anyway. It may take repeated and painful efforts to break the rock-solid patterns, but rocks do break with time, effort, and showing up as who I want to be. No rocks will sustain long enough. Remember, a rock when faced with the constant high pressure of something as fluid as water would break too. You just need to persist. I feel like I have no other choice but to fight these forces telling me that I'm not good enough. So I have to choose to love myself. So I will choose to feel too much, think too much, and be oversensitive because they're not my problems. They're my superpowers. Being neurodivergent to me is like having invisible wings. I feel different from a lot of people out there, and I'm sometimes even mocked for it. But once I discovered Once I discovered how to accept these wings and unlock the power that they hold, I could fly to places where my bullies could not even roam. So today I can say that I've learned how to own my wings. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Twinkle, for sharing that with us. ठीक है, एक और इनोवेटिव क्लैप करें, एक और अलग तरीके का क्लैप करें. ठीक है, इस बार रेन वाला क्लैप करेंगे. ठीक है, तो क्या करना है आपको, अपनी फीट्स को ऐसे ऐसे करना है. लेट्स स्टार्ट. मजा नहीं आ रहा, अब बारिश ही नहीं हो रही है. एक बार फिर से करके देखते हैं. ठीक है, नाइस, थैंक यू सो मच. मैं ऐसे ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं लेता, मैं अगला परफॉर्मर बुलाता हूँ आपके पास. ठीक है, सो आई विल कॉल ऑन स्टेज फिजा, हु इज़ अनदर चाइल्ड फ्रॉम वेस्ट दिल्ली. वेस्ट दिल्ली में हमारा एक स्कूल है, तो वहाँ से फिजा. सो फिजा, प्लीज कम ऑन द स्टेज. कैन वी गिव अ ह्यूज राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज फॉर फिजा.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Fiza. I am from class 7, New Age Public School. Today I am going to share my story with you about being eldest sibling in the house. ये कहानी मैं अपने और अपने परिवार के बारे में बताने जा रही हूँ. मेरे पेरेंट्स मेरे प्रति बहुत ही स्ट्रिक्ट है. वो मुझे हर चीज़ के बारे में बोलते हैं जो कि मुझे बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं है. मेरे 3 भाई बहन हैं जो मुझे हमेशा तंग करते हैं, खासकर तब जब मैं अपना कोई ज़रूरी काम कर रही होती हूँ. अगर मैं उन्हें डांटती हूँ तो मेरे पेरेंट्स मुझे ही कहते हैं कि अपने भाई बहनों से अच्छे से बात करो, क्यों उन्हें हमेशा डांटती रहती हो. मुझे हमेशा बुरा लगता है कि मेरे पेरेंट्स मेरे भाई बहनों को बोलने के बजाय मुझे बोलते हैं. क्या आपके पेरेंट्स भी ऐसे ही करते हैं या वो अलग है? इसलिए मैं हमेशा अकेली रहती हूँ और मुझे अच्छा भी लगता है अकेले रहना. अगर कभी मेरा मूड ख़राब होता है तो मैं गाने सुनना, किताब पढ़ना पसंद करती हूँ, जिससे मेरा मूड हमेशा फ्रेश रहता है. आपका अगर मूड ऑफ हो तो आपको कौन सी चीज़ मदद करती है? मैं किसी से ज़्यादा बात नहीं करती क्योंकि मुझे किसी से ज़्यादा बात करना पसंद नहीं है. मैं हमेशा से शांत और सीरियस रहती हूँ. इसके लिए मुझे हर कोई बोलता है इतना शांत और सीरियस रहना अच्छी बात नहीं है. सबसे बात करनी चाहिए और सबसे मिलजुल कर रहना चाहिए. आपको कैसे लोगों के साथ रहना पसंद है? मैं अपने फ्रेंड्स से भी बात करती हूँ पर ज़्यादा नहीं. मुझे हमेशा से गाने का शौक़ था और मैं आगे चलकर एक सिंगर बनना चाहती हूँ. क्या आपके पेरेंट्स अलो करते हैं कि आप फ्यूचर में क्या करना चाहते हैं? मैं सोचती हूँ कि क्या माता पिता का सपोर्ट और अटेंशन की कमी सभी एल्डर सिबलिंग के साथ होती है या बस मैं ही? मैं बस आपसे यही शेयर करना चाहती थी. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू सो मच. फिज़ा, आप फिज़ा की स्माइल देखिए, क्योंकि फिज़ा अभी जब आ रही थी वो थोड़ा सा बीमार हो गई थी, तो वो बड़ा ग्रीन रूम में परेशान थी कि मैं कैसे करूँगी. पर अभी जब आपने तालियां बजाई तो वो जो स्माइल के साथ वापस गई. आई थिंक दिस इज़ माई टेक अवे फ्रॉम टुडे. सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर बीइंग अ लवली ऑडियंस है. अमेजिंग. ठीक है, हमारे 2 परफॉर्मर्स और रह गए हैं. आपको 2 पोइट्रीज और देते हैं, बहुत सुंदर सुंदर पोइट्रीज, और फिर हम आपसे रुखसत लेंगे. तो मैं स्टेज पर बुलाना चाहता हूँ हमारी अगली फेलो को, जो कि है वंशिका. सो वंशिका के लिए हम एक नए तरीके का क्लैप करेंगे. ठीक है, इट्स कॉल्ड गन क्लैप. हम वायलेंस में बिलीव नहीं करते, सॉरी, बट इट्स अ इनोवेटिव क्लैप, दैट्स ऑल. ठीक है, तो इसको अलग तरीके से मत लीजिए. ठीक है, हमें क्या करना है? हाँ, अगेन. अमेजिंग. वेलकम ऑन स्टेज वंशिका.
हेलो एवरीवन, मेरा नाम वंशिका है और मैं स्लैम आउट लाउड के साथ एक जीजी विशा फेलो और एक आर्ट बेस्ड सोशल इमोशनल लर्निंग फैसिलिटेटर की तरह काम करती हूँ. आसान शब्दों में मैं बच्चों को अलग अलग कलाओं के माध्यम से भावनाओं के बारे में सिखाती हूँ. और आज मैं आप सभी के सामने एक पीस परफॉर्म करने वाली हूँ जिसका टाइटल है मेंटल हेल्थ इज़ अ यूनिवर्सल ह्यूमन राइट, जो एग्जैक्टली हमारी थीम के साथ जाता है. Mental health is a universal human right, except it isn't. For the mothers who cook and clean alone for 12 people at night, or the fathers who wear toned out shoes to make their children's futures bright. Mental health is important, except it doesn't exist for the bhaiya who leaves his dignity outside as he enters manholes, or the didi who cleans the houses of the elite who treat her like she is dirt. Mental health should be affordable, except most students preparing for an entrance exam cannot afford to pay for it. And when something bad happens, fans and not the system is given blame for it. Mental health should be accessible, except often it ceases to exist outside our air-conditioned rooms when people on the streets, in jails, and shelter homes are in need of it the most. Mental health of men should not be stigmatized, or you should cry a little and wear the color pink, but don't step away too much from other traditional gender roles. Well, your paycheck decides whether or not you are manly enough. Mental health of women should be prioritized as well. Oh, you should smile a bit more, but we're talking about good women, okay? Not the ones with short skirts, bold lips, and no shame for the love of God. Mental health of survivors of sexual abuse is important too. Just don't speak up against your own family and spouse. And if you can't overcome the trauma of your abuse, then we will put labels on you of being mentally ill and loud. Mental health is for everyone, for all the lovely humans out there. Just don't be an outcast. Well, you first need to be considered a human by society, and then we can talk about your mental health rights. Mental health is a universal human right, except it isn't for the majority of people out there. But we have built walls and buildings to hide their suffering, and we rarely talk about them. So today, let's open the doors of the discussion room and give everyone a seat at the table. Let's teach our children empathy, and let's get rid of all these unnecessary labels so that we all experience health and we all live a good quality of life, so that finally one day mental health becomes a universal human right. Thank you, everyone.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Vanshika. Is it a universal right? अब वो आप अपनी clapping से बताएंगे. Is it or isn't it? Is it? ठीक है. I think the poem got through that. I'll call the last performers. Okay, so last 3 children are going to come on the stage and perform. So I'll welcome on stage Chetna, Ansh, and Swati. So can we give a 3 times bigger claps for 3 children right now?
हेलो गुड आफ्टरनून एवरीवन। हम सभी विकास वैली पब्लिक स्कूल के विद्यार्थी हैं। आज हम सभी आपको अपनी कहानी सुनाना चाहते हैं, तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं।
मेरा नाम है अंश, मेरी उम्र है 13 साल। मुझे पसंद है नीला आसमान क्योंकि वह है बहुत ही शांत।
मेरा नाम है स्वाति, उम्र 13 साल है। मुझे पसंद है वीर जवान क्योंकि वह है बहादुर इंसान।
मेरा नाम है चेतना, उम्र 12 साल है। मुझे पसंद है पक्षी क्योंकि वह है आज़ाद। कहीं भी उड़े कहीं भी जाएं, हर पल पंखों को फैलाएं।
लेकिन जब मैं मेरी पहचान के बारे में सोच रहा था, तभी मेरे सामने मेरा प्रिय मित्र मेरा शरीर आता है और कहता है कि दोस्त, हम लोगों ने जो मोटापे में जो कहानी सुनाई थी वो बहुत अच्छी थी, तो अब हम क्या सुनाएं? तो मैंने कहा चलो हम लंबाई और छोटाई पर कहानी सुनाएं। लंबाई और छोटाई पे मुझे तो कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता, पर सब कहते हैं ये कितना लंबा है, ये कितना छोटा।
और जब मैं मेरी पहचान के बारे में सोच रही थी तभी मुझे याद आया कि मेरे मम्मी पापा भी मुझसे बहुत प्यार करते हैं, मेरी टीचर्स भी मुझे बहुत पसंद करती है, पर मुझे हमेशा एक ही चीज़ की शिकायत रहती थी कि भगवान ने मुझे इतना काला क्यों बनाया। मेरे सांवले रंग की वजह से क्लास में सब मुझे चिढ़ाते थे, अजीब अजीब से नाम रख दिए थे मेरे, पता नहीं क्या क्या। मैं हमेशा से अपने इस काले रंग को कोसती रहती थी।
मेरी भी कुछ ऐसी है कहानी। मुझे सब क्लास में डबल बैटरी कहकर चिढ़ाते हैं क्योंकि मुझे चश्मा लग रखा है, लेकिन मेरे दोस्तों ने मुझे समझाया कि तू चिंता क्यों करती है, अगर तू उनकी बातों पर ध्यान ही नहीं देगी तो वह तुझे कहना ही छोड़ देंगे।
धीरे धीरे मुझे समझ आया मेरे रंग से ज़्यादा है मेरी पहचान। मैं हूँ सुंदर, मेरी पहचान है सबसे प्यारी। अब मैं न सुनूँ इस दुनिया की बातें, क्योंकि इस दुनिया की बातें हैं बेकार सारी।
ये थी मेरी पहचान, अब मैं हूँ एक पक्षी, हूँ मैं आज़ाद, नहीं पड़ता मुझे कोई फ़र्क किसी बात का, क्योंकि मेरे दोस्त हैं मेरे साथ।
और मैं हूँ खुला आसमान जिस पे पक्षी खुल कर उड़ते हैं मेरे यार, ना कोई कम ना कोई गम, हर कोई रहता सबके संग, ना कोई लड़ाई ना कोई जंग, हर दिन होते खुशियों के पल, चिड़िया की तरह आएंगे पंख, आखिर खुशियों के वो 2 पल। यही है हमारी पहचान, इसको रखना है सबको याद, सिखानी है सबको ये बात जो इस कहानी में है बात। थैंक यू।
Okay, that was the last performance from our side. Thank you so much for being a lovely audience. और एक आखिरी क्लैप करते हुए हम जाएंगे सबके लिए, ठीक है? This is called a firecracker clap, okay? क्या करना है? See, we don't promote firecrackers again. Just a warning, okay? See, okay, साथ में करेंगे, ठीक है? Okay everyone, thank you so much. We are Slam Out Loud. आप हमको Instagram पे follow कर सकते हैं and please हम बाहर ही हैं, हमारे celebrity बच्चों के साथ अगर किसी को फोटो खिंचवानी है please हमारे पास ज़रूर आना। और साथ ही में अगर किसी को भी Slam Out Loud के बारे में और जानना है या किसी को psychology background से हमारे साथ काम करना है या volunteer करना है, please reach out to us on Instagram और मैं बाहर ही मिलूंगा अगर आपको मेरे से बात भी करनी है। Thank you so much. Bye bye. Have a lovely time.
That was truly an adorable performance, and I'm sure it brought a smile to all of our faces. Continuing with poetry, we now have another very special guest amongst us, जिनसे जब हमने पूछा कि उनके इंट्रोडक्शन में हम क्या बोलें, तो उन्होंने बस एक ही चीज़ बोली कि वो अपनी कविताओं से दुनिया का नज़रिया बदलना चाहती हैं। तो मुस्कुराओ, अगर आज कहीं से हार गए हो, उस जीत की ज़रूरत शायद आज किसी और को थी। Nayab Midha ma'am, may we please have you on stage with...
Thank you for the lovely introduction, Baba. Dhanyavad. Is somebody at the sound? आप इसका रिवर्ब थोड़ा कम कर दोगे, थोड़ा एको रिवर्ब कम कर दोगे प्लीज। थैंक यू। हाय, कैन यू ऑल हियर मी लाउड एंड क्लियर? हाय, दिस इज माय सेकंड ईयर हियर, लाइक आई एम कमिंग हियर फॉर द सेकंड टाइम। एनीबॉडी फ्रॉम लास्ट ईयर? ऑल राइट, ओके। तो मेरा नाम नायाब है। आई एम अ पोएट, अ स्टोरी टेलर फॉर लाइफ आई गेस। तो मैं यहाँ आ रही थी और मैं सोच रही थी दैट आई एम गोइंग टू परफॉर्म एट अ मेंटल हेल्थ फेस्टिवल एंड हाउ लकी आई एम। Okay, people in the house who faced mental health issues, give me a cheer for that. Give me a cheer for getting through them. awesome. So I was just thinking that how lucky I am that I've never been clinically depressed. Lucky, huh? I've always just been depressed. I've never had the money to go to a clinic, you know. And now, when I'm finally making money, all right, the money is out of my traumas. I do poetry. So if I go to a therapist, I will stop making money again. That's a vicious circle. I'm stuck in trauma, okay? तो मैं बहुत वक्त पहले I was questioning myself और मुझे ना imposter syndrome बड़ा पुराना है. कहा जाता है कि औरतों में ज़्यादा होता है. ठीक है? बड़ा पुराना है कि ये मैं तो नहीं लिख रही. ये कविताएं कहीं और से निकल रही हैं. So I was constantly wondering और भारत में बहुत तरीके हैं जानने की कि कहाँ से आता है. तो पहले तो मैंने क्या ये तो कोई और ही है, किसी महान व्यक्ति ने मरने पे डिसाइड किया कि इसके अंदर चलते हैं. So I'm searching who died 13 September 1996, right? That who died and decided चलो इधर चलते हैं, बढ़िया लग रहा है, you know, all of that. And then I went to like a lot of people and तांत्रिक की दिशा में भी गए. तो मुझे मिल गया वो इंसान जो मेरे अंदर आता था. और trauma. A very good writer, everybody. Please consult if you want heartfelt things written. But let's do poetry. Let's do a poem. It is very important, and today is the day the poem finds its right stage. इस कविता का नाम है अवसाद. मेरा ले ही गए वो उठा करके, नहीं चाहिए. अवसाद जिसको अंग्रेजी में हम सब लोग डिप्रेशन कहते हैं, right? Do you all remember your childhood? Do you all remember that how optimistic, hopeful we all were? Do you all remember that we would sleep on a bed and look at stars through the sky? Through the wall that we had. उसके बीच से भी सितारे दिख जाते थे. And then somewhere as we grow, we lose that. I'm sorry, but I would want you to stop talking around the stage. Thank you so much. तान्या मैम, आप जहाँ पे भी हो आपको इधर required है. All right, let's do this. Are you all with me? Whenever you like something, you're supposed to, you know the drill, right? Slam Out Loud taught you. I guess you know the drill. कहा है कि दिल कभी छत से आसमान छान लिया करता था, एक एक कर सितारों को पोटली में भरता था. अब अक्सर है चुप ही रहता, सही गलत दवा या दर्द मुझसे है अब कुछ ना कहता. न जाने क्यों ऐसा उसको क्या ख्याल आया, लेकर आसमां एक दिन सितारों की जगह सवाल आया. क्यों उसने तुमको छोड़ा, क्यों उसको ना फिर प्यार आया. माँ बाबा अलग क्यों रहते, एक दूजे से कुछ ना कहते. बचपन की यादों से दिल सहम क्यों जाता, मैं मेरे जैसे से अगर प्यार करूं तो ज़माना जहर क्यों गाता. ये मेरे अंदर इतना कौन चिल्लाता, चीखें जिसकी शोर नहीं और ना सन्नाटा. कहते हैं कि ढूंढो तो खुदा भी मिल ही जाता है, तो मेरे नाचीज सवालों के जवाब क्या चीज़ थे. जो था दिल के अंदर बैठा दिल को खाली करता, बताने खुद मेरे दिल का हाल आया. क्या क्या सुलूक किया है उसने इसके साथ, लेकर मेरे हर सवाल का जवाब आया. So one day my depression wakes up and decide to talk to me. वो उठता है और मुझसे बात करता है कि इंसान की तरह. आप इमेजिन कीजिएगा कि यहाँ 2 कमरे हैं, एक यहाँ एक यहाँ. तो मेरा डिप्रेशन मुझसे कहता है कि तुम मुझे दुनिया भर में ढूंढती फिरती हो, तुम मुझे दुनिया भर में ढूंढती फिरती हो, मैं यही हूँ तुम्हारे दिल में. यहाँ 2 कमरे हैं, एक जिसमें तुम रहती हो और दूसरे से कुछ ना कहती हो. तुम्हारे इस कमरे की खिड़की पर मैंने पर्दा कर दिया है, रोशनी मुझे पसंद नहीं, तुम्हारे दिल में अंधेरा भर दिया है. मुझे लगता था मेरी इस मेहनत को तुम एक दिन मिट्टी में ज़रूर मिलाओगे, रोशनी को ढूंढने के चक्कर में तुम पर्दा ज़रूर हटाओगे. मगर तुम्हारी इस कश्मकश की नकली रोशनी ने मेरा काम बहुत आसान कर दिया. तुम देर रात इसके सहारे जागते रहे और सुबह जब उम्मीद की किरण आई तुम उठे, तुमने खिड़की पर पर्दा ज़रा अच्छे से ढक दिया. मैं देखता था तुम्हें इस दूसरे कमरे से जिसे तुम खोलते नहीं, इसमें रखी बातों को तुम फरोलते नहीं. इसके दरवाजे पर तुम्हारे डर का एक ताला है, इसके नीचे से फेंकी तुम्हारी चिट्ठियों ने मुझे बड़े लाड प्यार से पाला है. मैं बना हूँ उन लफ्ज़ों का जो तुम्हारी ज़ुबान तक आ ना सके, तुम्हारे अंदर से जा ना सके. उन बातों का जो तुम कह भी ना पाए और सह भी ना पाए, काश तुम कहते. काश तुम कहते मगर तुम्हें डर है, जो कह दोगे तो हर बात पे सवाल होगा, राम जाने कितना बवाल होगा। मैं सुनती रही अवसाद को, मैं सुनती रही अवसाद को, और वो एकदम से चुप हो गया। वो मौत का कीड़ा मुझे जगाकर खुद चैन की नींद सो गया। मैं हर रोज़ ढूंढती थी तरीके, मैं हर रोज़ ढूंढती थी तरीके कि इससे छुटकारा कैसे लूँ, चाकू छुरी या इसे बुलाकर एक दिन जहर दे दूँ। आज खबर हुई, आज खबर हुई कि इनमें से किसी तरीके को मुझे ना चुनना था, वो बातों का बना था, उसकी बातों को सुनना था। अब जो जाना है, अब जो जाना है तो कहना बस इतना है, अब जो जाना है तो कहना बस इतना है कि घर मिले कोई, घर मिले कोई, घर दिखे कोई, जो लगे ना जाने कहाँ खोया है, ज़मीर लगे जिसका एक अरसे से सोया है। तुम बैठ कर उससे बातें चार कर लेना, तुम बैठ कर उससे बातें चार कर लेना, तुम नींद को उसकी मुट्ठी में अपनी भर लेना। तुम कहना उससे, तुम कहना उससे कि आओ इस बेरुखे से अवसाद को बर्बाद हम कर दें, ये ज़िंदगी जो जिंदा है तो इसे आबाद हम कर लें। कि बात कुछ बातों की तो है, कि बात कुछ बातों की तो है, आओ एक दूसरे से कर लें। थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू। तो अक्सर हम शर्म खाते हैं ना, अपनी बातें जो अंदर दबी रहती हैं वो हमें ट्रबल करती रहती है, और हम शर्म खाते रहते हैं कि नहीं बताने लायक है। एंड ऑनेस्टली एज आई सेड, आई डिड नॉट हैव द मनी टू गो टू अ क्लिनिक, सो आई ओनली हैड द मनी टू लेट आउट लाउड। क्योंकि मैं कोविड में क्या करूं, आगे चली जाऊं? थैंक यू, इनका कॉन्फिडेंस चाहिए मुझे ना लाइफ में। चलो चलो और आगे। अच्छा, ओह नाइस। So they're prepping up for the next time, taking more time than I'm asked for. I don't care. I'm habitual of letting out when I'm not supposed to. So, all right, what I learned from this, I'll be very honest, okay? कि जब मैं जगह जगह जा करके अपना ट्रॉमा गाने लगी तो I realized कि भारत की एक बहुत खूबसूरत बात है कि हम सब की फैमिलीज इक्वली डिसफंक्शनल है। मुझे किसी ने भी ये नहीं कहा कि ओ आई फील सॉरी फॉर यू, मुझे सबने कहा हाँ यार हमारे साथ भी ऐसा ही होता है। तो जब सबके साथ हो रहा है तो मैं रो किस बात पे रही हूँ? लाइक वेरी सैड ह्यूमन बिहेवियर, बट अगर दूसरा दुख में हो तो हमें खुशी हो जाती है कि दूसरे को भी तो सेम ही प्रॉब्लम है। सैड ह्यूमन बिहेवियर बट बिहेवियर, ओके। सो नाउ, और पता है क्या है, किसी के पास भी जाओ, हम सबकी एक बुआ है जो नाराज है सालों से, हम सबका एक चाचा हमारी बहुत पहले ज़मीन ले गया था, हमारी दादियाँ पाकिस्तान पता नहीं कितना ही सोना छोड़ के आ गई जिस वजह से हम गरीब हैं, जिस वजह से हमारे घर के आधे कलेश हैं। सो ऑल ऑफ दैट इज सो कॉमन, द रूट कॉजेज ऑफ आवर ट्रॉमा, दैट वी कैन ऑलवेज शेयर, यू नो। तो बात कुछ बातों की तो है, आओ एक दूसरे से कर ले, राइट? बट नाउ एक प्रॉब्लम, वन प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व, दैट आई कैन गो शेयर आउट फैमिली ट्रॉमास। बट वेयर डू आई गो विथ माई पर्सनल हेट्रेड? अभी एक बच्ची ने आके कहा कि मैं काली हूँ तो मेरा मजाक क्यों उड़ाया जाता है, राइट? वेयर डू आई टेक दैट? वेयर डू आई टेक द society that does not say a thing but says thousands things, you know? Where do I take that? Because I've not been taught to celebrate my scars, okay? I've never been taught. So I'm going to take this moment with all of you. Just think of your scars. Think of everything that you hate about your body, and we're just going to celebrate it right now, right here. Can we do that? Can we have a huge cheer for the scars that we carry? Awesome. इस कविता का नाम है दाग, ठीक है? Just imagine things with me, if you can, you know, if I'm that good. चेहरे पर मेरे, अच्छा, I'm just going to request one thing. कुसर पुसर कुसर पुसर मेरे तक आती है. Just please, can we not do that for 10 minutes? Okay, awesome. इधर कर रहे हैं, मेरे पीछे खड़े होके. All right, I'll ignore. चेहरे पर मेरे एक दाग है, मेरी नाक जरा है इधर उधर. Is something happening over the mic ना? वो भैया को पकड़ के लाऊं? मुझे निकाले फेंक के. चलो let's do this. Everybody with me? All right. चेहरे पर मेरे एक दाग है, मेरी नाक जरा है इधर उधर. आंखों से जरा मैं भटकती हूँ, दिखती हूँ थोड़ी अलग अलग. लोग मुझे देखकर नजरें चुराते हैं, एक बार को अटपटाते हैं, फिर दूसरे ही पल बड़े दया भाव से मुस्कुराते हैं. वो पूछते हैं मुझसे, वो पूछते हैं मुझसे, चेहरे पर जो ये दाग है क्या बचपन की कोई याद है? याद जिसका काम है बीते कल की बातों से मेरे आज को चुराना और तुम जैसे लोगों को मुझे अपनाने से डराना। तो मैं भी कह देती हूँ उनसे कि ये डर जो तुम्हारे सर बदन पर लिपटा है मेरे बस चेहरे पर सीमित है। बचपन जिंदा है मेरा, बचपन जिंदा है मेरा, निडर हूँ मैं आज भी, मेरे सर पे है बेफिक्री का वो ताज भी। मुझे खौफ नहीं, मुझे खौफ नहीं, सूरज जो मेरा रंग चुरा ले, बारिश जो मुझे भिगा ले, मैं तो खुद बारिश की उन बूंदों से कुछ रंग चुरा लेती हूँ। धूप निकलते ही उन्हें अपने बदन पर सुखा लेती हूँ। वो बूंदें जिनमें बसती मेरे अंदर की सारी आग है, लोग समझते इसे बस मेरे चेहरे का एक दाग है। वो लोग जो इसे मेरी बदकिस्मती बदसूरती बताते हैं, खुद रखने से पहले कदम घर के बाहर घंटों आईने के सामने बिताते हैं। वो लोग जो मांगकर काले काजल से इजाज़त, वो लोग जो मांगकर काले काजल से इजाज़त करते हैं सफ़ेद रंग की इबादत। वो काला काजल जो किसी की आँखों को सजाता है, वो काला कपड़ा जो किसी के बदन को बड़ी खूबसूरती से छिपाता है, फिर ना जाने क्यों वो गोरा बदन काले चेहरों से दूरी बनाता है। क्या खबर उसे कि उसकी आंखों में बसता वो गोरेपन का गुरूर महज एक काला काजल उठाता है। मगर दस्तूर कुछ ऐसा ही है ज़माने का कि जला सके सूरज हर सुबह, चांद हर रोज़ छिप जाता है। मगर ये चेहरा जलता है उस चांद से, ये चेहरा जलता है उस चांद से, लिखे जिस पर किस्से हजार, लिखी जिस पर नगमे हजार, और इस चेहरे पर एक राग नहीं, क्यों उस चांद पे क्या कोई दाग नहीं? मगर दस्तूर कुछ ऐसा ही है ज़माने का कि ये दाग जो आंगन में हो तो चादर बिछाना ज़रूरी, ये दाग जो कपड़े पे हो तो मिटाना ज़रूरी, और ये दाग जो चेहरे पे हो तो बदसूरत वो चेहरा छुपाना ज़रूरी। मेरे चेहरे पर जो ये दाग है ना, कि दस्तूर तो इतना ऐसा है कि इस ज़माने से तो वो साबुन ही बेहतर हैं जो काम में अपने कच्चे हैं, मगर फिर भी कहते हैं कि दाग अच्छे हैं। मेरे चेहरे पर जो ये दाग है एक निशानी है, सीमा कोई तोड़ पाने की, किसी मुश्किल से लड़ जाने की। एक आवाज़ है तमाम उस खूबसूरत ज़माने के लिए जो रूह को मारने चले हैं और रूप संवारने चले हैं कि ये रूह एक दिन चली जाएगी, फिर रूप की ना कोई औकात रह पाएगी। एक सवाल है कि ये सीरत जिस दिन संवर जाएगी क्या सूरत से वो टकराएगी? मेरे चेहरे पर जो ये दाग है, जिंदा इसके लाखों ख्वाब हैं। थैंक यू सो मच। Thank you. Okay, one thing that you all have to do with me now, we've the last two pieces, okay? अगले 3 मिनट आपको मेरे साथ क्या करना है, मैं जब जब कहूँ कि तुम खूबसूरत हो, आपको मेरे साथ कहना है तुम खूबसूरत हो। Alright, everybody at the count of 1, 3, 2, 1, तुम जोर से, तुम पूरे एम्स को सुनाई देना चाहिए, तुम, क्या पता 1-2 बीमारियां ऐसे ही ठीक हो जाए, है ना? तुम, क्या बात है, ये बात खुद से 100 दफ़ा कहो। चलते वक्त, रुकते वक्त, उठते वक्त, सोते वक्त, जागते वक्त, हर वक्त, खुद को आईने में देखते वक्त, मुस्कुराते वक्त, चिल्लाते वक्त, दूसरों की आंखों में अपनी झलक देखते वक्त, बिना ये सोचे कि वो तुम्हारे बारे में क्या सोच रहे हैं, खुद से बेखौफ कहो कि तुम खूबसूरत हो। जली आँखों में काजल डालने से पहले, सूखे चेहरे पर सफ़ेद रंग लगाने से पहले, कानों को झुमके के बोझ तले दबाने से पहले, कमर को 2 इंच छोटे कपड़े में कसने से पहले, उसी कपड़े को अपनी छाती में धंसने से पहले, इन होठों को लाल गुलाबी सुर्खी में बंद करने से पहले इन्हें कहने दो कि तुम। और जब ये बात झूठ लगे, कहो कि कोई दिल लगी, कोई जिम्मेदारी, अफसाद या कोई बीमारी रहा होगा कारण इस रूखे बदन का, और इससे खूबसूरत क्या ही होगा कि रूप ने खुद से ऊपर ध्यान रखा रूह का। तो ये सच एक दफ़ा खुद से फिर कहो कि तुम खूबसूरत हो। तब तक कहो जब तक ये आवाज़ तुम्हारी ज़ुबान से निकल कानों तक पहुंचने से पहले तुम्हारे गालों को ये बताकर उठा ना दे, तुम्हारे होठों की करवट बदल ना दें, तुम्हारे माथे की सिलवटें हटा ना जाएं, तुम्हारे बदन के कन कन को बता ना दें, तुम्हारी आंखों के गड्ढों में बैठ ना जाए, तुम्हारी रूह को जब तक ये बात पता ना चल जाए तब तक कहो कि तुम। और जब भी कोई इस बात को झुटलाना चाहे, शरीर के आड़े टेढ़े आकार तुम्हें समझाना चाहे, मोटी हो गई हो, सुबह उठकर टहलने नहीं जाती, रंग तो देखो, दही बेसन क्यों नहीं लगाती, ये पतली कमर, 20 की छाती, 5 फुट का 6 का डोला, तू सच बता तुझे मर्द कौन बोला। ऐसी हजारों लाखों बातों से हमें हर रोज नीचा दिखाया जाता। मैं जानती हूँ ऐसा शारीरिक मजाक हमारा हर रोज उड़ाया जाता। तो अगली दफा जब तुम्हारी नजरों में तुम्हें कोई गिराना चाहे, खुद को बेवजह तुमसे ऊंचा कोई बताना चाहे, तो उसके करीब जाना, हाथ थामना या पीठ थपथपाना और उससे कहना, मेरी जान हम नहीं जानते। उससे कहना, मेरी जान हम नहीं जानते कि तुमसे ये किसी ने कहा है या नहीं, मगर तुम खूबसूरत हो। मेरी जान मैं नहीं जानती कि तुमसे, तुम सभी से किसी ने ये कहा है या नहीं, मगर तुम खूबसूरत हो। ये बात खुद से 100 दफ़ा कहो, हर वक्त कहो, कहते रहो कि तुम। थैंक यू सो मच। All right, we're doing the one last piece. It has a story, small story. मुझे ना, not to tell, very nice place to tell this story, but I hate brushing. Okay, I hate people who hate brushing. Can you please, support me here on stage? Awesome, thank you. ठीक है. People who do not brush before sleeping. ठीक है. I know we all should, but I don't. Okay. I hate brushing. I don't know why. So of course there had to be like early at a point of time. मतलब मेरे मम्मी को 40 में डेंटिस्ट के पास जाना पड़ा, मुझे 25 में. We of course मेरे ही कर्मों का फल है ये. ठीक है. तो I went to a dentist and then he looked at my teeth and said, "How are you surviving with this set of teeth?" It felt more like a philosophical question and I said, "ऐसे." Because is there any other way to survive life, sir? Have you seen the world that we've created? There's no other way. Just smile at everything. And that's where we changed the perspective, as that girl said, that I would take this moment and try and change the perspective a little bit here. So every time I say muskurao, just smile. Just smile. All right. Muskurao. अगर आज कहीं से हार गए हो, उस जीत की ज़रूरत तुमसे ज़्यादा किसी को थी शायद. मुस्कुराओ. अगर कुछ खो गया है, जिसके नसीब का था उसको मिल गया है शायद. मुस्कुराओ. अगर दिल टूट गया है, किसी का जोड़ने के लिए किसी का तोड़ना पड़ता होगा ना. और फिर भी रह जाए अगर दिल में दर्द कहीं, तो बांट कर मुस्कुराओ. और है अगर दिल में खुशी ज़्यादा, तो सेम प्रोसेस दोहराओ. मुस्कुराओ जब बार बार ये सोच कर हताश हो जाते हो कि इससे अच्छा ये हो जाता, इससे अच्छा वो हो जाता, तब ये सोच कर मुस्कुराओ कि इससे बुरा हो जाता तो क्या हो जाता. मुस्कुराओ. मुस्कुराओ अगर सर पे है छत, बदन पर है कपड़ा और है थाली में खाना, और है अगर ज़रूरत से ज़्यादा तो बांट कर खराना. मुस्कुराओ जब पूछे कोई कि ज़िंदगी जीने का है क्या सलीका, मुस्कुराओ ये कहकर कि हमने ज़िंदगी से मुस्कुराना ही सीखा. मुस्कुराओ. मुस्कुराओ even if you have to walk miles and miles, because it's okay if your glass is half empty. You can always fill it with smiles. मुस्कुराओ. Thank you so much. मेरा नाम है नायाब मिठा. You can find me on Instagram, of course. Thank you so much. Cheers and kudos to the mental health that we are surviving in, and to better mental health next year when I come here. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Nayab. हम backstage थे and we were all very happy that you're here and that you provided such a nice perspective to everything. I invite Meeta ma'am to felicitate Slam Out Loud as well as Nayab.
Nayab ma'am, we request you to kindly stay back on stage and felicitate Slam Out Loud. And now, for the moment we've all been waiting for, bringing the real life people into the real life. We have with us Dr. Vishal Chhabra, Shaleen Mitra sir, and Ms. Shruti Seth for our influencer panel.
Dr. Vishal Chhabra is a graduate and postgraduate from Kasturba Medical College, Manipal. He has 23 years of experience in clinical practice, working in various esteemed institutions like IBHAS GPT Hospital, Wimhans, and Metro Group of Hospitals. He is currently HOD and senior consultant at Fortis Hospital, Shalimar Bagh, Delhi, and also visiting 2 of their hospitals in Okhla and Vasant Kunj, besides running his private practice clinic in Rohini. He is Life Fellow of Indian Psychiatric Society, Indian Association of Biological Psychiatry, Indian Association of Social Psychiatry, and Indian Association of Private Psychiatry. He is the recipient of Ravi Pandey Memorial Award, WPA Fellowship in Child Psychiatry, and Asian Federation Fellowship, and has multiple publications to his name. May we please have a round of applause for him? Next, we have Mr. Shaleen Mitra, who is the secretary to the chairperson of DUSIB, cum Minister of Urban Development and Health. Currently, he is responsible for the delivery of AAP government's key promise to Mohalla clinics, which has recently crossed 50 million OPDs. Delhi government is played a pivotal role in arranging resources and making arrangements during the firefighting COVID crisis in Delhi NCR region. He has also been the architect to various government projects targeting prevention of substance abuse among young children. Currently, he is working at Mahila Mohalla clinics, schools, health centers, metro clinics, and airport hospitals. He supervises and functions of CATS Ambulance 1031 Patient Helpline in Delhi government hospitals, Farishte Delhi Case Scheme, Winter Action Plan for Homeless People in Delhi, and initiatives pertaining to drug control in NCT of India.
And last but not the least, Miss Shruti Seth, or as we all fondly remember her from our childhood, Jia from Shararat. She is an arts-based therapy practitioner, certified emotional intelligence coach, trained mindfulness meditation teacher, and passionate mental well-being advocate.
So we invited all of you here just to have a little chat. And before we start anything, we'd just like to ask if anybody has anything to share.
Hi, everyone. So since we are here and we're talking about mental health, how is everybody feeling? How's everyone feeling? Hungry? I'm feeling hungry. Well, firstly, I want to just thank the Mental Health Foundation for having me here today. I've spent the last 2 years of my life trying to equip myself with new skills. I know that you all know me as an actor, which is my day job, of course. But I've always been extremely fascinated by the human mind, as all of us should be, because I think it is the starting and the end point of everything. And for some reason, it's the one thing that we all are just taught to ignore. Well, I used the last 2 years to try and increase a little bit of self-awareness and to try and understand why I do the things I do, why I enjoy the things I do, why I dislike the things I do, and most importantly, how I conduct myself the way I do. And I feel that in the last 2 years, I've really, really enjoyed my journey into my own human mind. And I think it is a journey each and every one of us must make to try and understand ourselves better. Because at the end of the day, if you want something to change, then it'll only happen if you change. And that is what I've been trying to do, hopefully change for the better. But the idea is to keep on making myself uncomfortable so that I keep changing my position and my perspective. And today I'm happy to sit here in a brand new chair with brand new skills. And I'm really, really happy that I get a chance to interact and interface with people who have made helping people change their life's motto. So thank you for having me amongst you guys. And thank you so much for all the psychiatrists and the psychologists and the clinical psychologists and the therapists and the teachers and the students who have dedicated their life in helping others change. So thank you. Which gentleman is going to go next?
Okay. Hello. Am I audible? Okay. So, however, my introduction was given as an influencer. I don't know how much do I influence people directly, but I do influence mental health of this capital state of the country because I work with the Minister of Health, and I would want you to question what government is doing about mental health, and I'm ready to get vulnerable as it requires because I'm doing my bit, and I would probably be willing to answer all your questions concerning that. But yes, we as a community do lack skills of what civil society usually has. So we don't question government. We don't really ask government what government is doing about mental well-being, right? Be it preventive, promotive, or curative. And however, the time given to us was 12, and I was also prepared, my tummy was also prepared to handle by that time, and I can see many empty chairs in front of me because I know आप लोग सब सुबह 9 बजे के यहाँ आए हुए हो और अभी तक बहुत भूखे हो, तो भूखे शेरों के सामने हम अपने आप को खुला छोड़ रहे हैं. आप जो पूछना चाहो पूछ सकते हो। एक अभी नायाब ने इतना माहौल बना दिया, तो मुझे मैंने 2 साल पहले 2 लाइनें लिखी थी, मुझे लगा मैं भी वहीं से शुरू करूँगा कि ऐ दिल चल आज मेरे साथ कहीं दूर गैरों की महफिल की ओर चला जाए। ऐ दिल चल आज मेरे साथ कहीं दूर गैरों की महफिल की ओर चला जाए। अपनों से तो कहीं मुहब्बत है बाकी, अपनों से तो कहीं मुहब्बत है बाकी, एहसास दर्द किसी और से ही बांटा है, एहसास दर्द किसी और से ही बांटा है। और हमें पता है कि देश में साइकेट्रिस्ट की जो संख्या है 1 लाख के ऊपर 0.2, यानी एक इंसान भी पूरा नहीं है 1 लाख के ऊपर। यानी आप कह सकते हैं कि लगभग 4 लाख लोगों के ऊपर 5 लाख लोगों के ऊपर एक साइकेट्रिस्ट है और लगभग 3.5 लाख लोगों के ऊपर एक साइकोलॉजिस्ट है इस देश में। जबकि ग्लोबल यदि मीडियन निकाला जाए तो हर लाख के ऊपर 3 साइकेट्रिस्ट तो अवेलेबल हैं। तो आप सोचिए कि हम दुनिया से भी लगभग 9वां हिस्सा पीछे चल रहे हैं, यानी हम 9 गुना पीछे हैं दुनिया से। और यदि मैं उसमें मर्दों की बात करूं, जो कि इस रूम में किस्मत है कि हम 2 लोग यहाँ हैं, पर इस रूम में यदि आप देखोगे, मुझे लगता है कि मेंटल हेल्थ फाउंडेशन ऑफ इंडिया बेहतर बता पाएगी कि कितने मेल रजिस्ट्रेशन हुए और कितने फीमेल। मैं उन मेल की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ जिनको स्कूल से भेजा गया है ज़बरदस्ती कि जाओ अटेंड करो, जो अपनी विलिंगनेस से आए हैं। एंड आई कैन ओनली सी फ्यू फेसेस, शायद 15 या 20। तो अब मेल के ऊपर कितने मेल साइकोलॉजिस्ट हैं, इसकी तो गणित बिगाड़ कर देगी। तो मेल मेंटल हेल्थ के ऊपर बहुत कम बात होती है, एंड मैं चाहूँगा कि डॉक्टर साहब उस पर कुछ प्रकाश डालें। और इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ हम लोग यहाँ आपके क्वेश्चंस को लेने के लिए हैं मौजूद। और नायाब ने ऐसा माहौल खड़ा कर दिया कि ऐसा लग रहा था कि अरे यार, इतना सरगम आ गई, ताल आ गई, रिदम आ गई, अभी कहाँ बोरिंग सा सेशन होगा। तो हम इस सेशन को इंटरेक्टिव रखें और इन्फ्लुएंसर से ज़्यादा हमें आपका दोस्त समझें, हमसे बात करें। हम लोग चाहते हैं आपसे मिलने आए, बात करने आए हैं। बहुत शुक्रिया।
मेरा नाम डॉक्टर विशाल, मैं यहाँ पे नॉट जस्ट इन्फ्लुएंसर पर ऑल्सो मैं दिल्ली साइकेट्रिक सोसाइटी को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा हूँ। मैं उसका प्रेसिडेंट हूँ राइट नाउ। साइकेट्रिस्ट आर स्टिग्मेटाइज्ड, साइकेट्री तो स्टिग्मेटाइज है ही, मेंटल हेल्थ भी स्टिग्मेटाइज्ड है, बट साइकेट्रिस्ट ऑल्सो वेरी स्टिग्मेटाइज्ड पॉपुलेशन अमंग द डॉक्टर्स इटसेल्फ। साइकेट्री मुश्किल से 15 दिन पढ़ाई जाती है थ्रू आउट MBBS ऑफ 4.5 years. So that's why a general physician or general doctor who gets out hardly has any idea of what are psychiatric disorders. और जो bias आप देखते हो जनरल पब्लिक में, that same similar bias you also see in doctors also. And they also afraid, जैसे कि किसी पेशेंट को पता है clearly कि पेशेंट इज हैविंग अ साइकोलॉजिकल प्रॉब्लम, वो भेजते नहीं है ये सोच के कि वो डॉक्टर के पास जाएंगे, मुझे पागलों के डॉक्टर के पास भेज रहे हो, कि मैं पागल थोड़ा ना, मैं तो आपका फिजिशियन पेशेंट है। सो वी कंटिन्यू टू सी दिस काइंड ऑफ स्टिग्मा। बट एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ हुई है लास्ट 3-4 years में, कोविड। ना कोविड इज बिन अ गेम चेंजर फॉर साइकाट्री। कोविड केम, इंडिया में लॉकडाउन स्टार्ट हुआ था 19th March और 20th March 2020 में, एंड टेली मेंटल हेल्थ guidelines came into effect on 30th of March 2022 within 10 days. वो वैसे ही बन रही थी, and because psychiatry is something you can go online and show the doctor, it created a boom. And when people lived in their own homes and they could not find distraction कि alcohol ले लेते हैं या movies चले जाते हैं या holiday कर लेते हैं, husband wife को इकट्ठे रहना पड़ रहा है सारे दिन, बच्चों को माँ बाप के साथ रहना पड़ रहा है सारे दिन, so you saw a lot more complications. आपको दिख रहा है आपके माँ बाप में डिमेंशिया आ रहा है, आपको दिख रहा है आपकी वाइफ चिड़चिड़ी है, आपको दिख रहा है आपके बच्चा पढ़ नहीं पा रहा है, बिकॉज यू आर एट होम फॉर ऑल दैट टाइम. एंड आई थिंक दैट्स व्हेयर मेंटल हेल्थ गेट ऑल द बूम ड्यूरिंग द कोविड पीरियड, एंड दैट्स व्हेयर आई स्टार्टेड माय सो कॉल्ड इन्फ्लुएंसर जर्नी. हम खाली थे तो हमने कहा चलो इंस्टाग्राम नया नया सीखा है वो ट्राई करते हैं, एंड वी स्टार्टेड टॉकिंग एंड इंटरेक्टिंग, एंड लॉट ऑफ पीपल केम इन, दे वुड हैव क्वेश्चंस, एंड दिस इज आई थिंक इट केम इनटू मी टू डू दिस काइंड ऑफ थिंग. आई एम नॉट अ बिग इन्फ्लुएंसर एट ऑल, ये दोनों के सामने तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं, मुझे कोई जानता भी नहीं, विच इज़ फाइन विद मी, आई एम हैप्पी विद माई पेशेंट्स. बट दिस मीडियम इज़ बिन वेरी नाइस, एंड youngsters, kudos to youngsters. Who called me today? Sanya. Sanya is one of the mental health advocates who I did a lot of shows with, and she influenced me. She told me to come here. It's an important thing. Otherwise, you don't see psychiatrists coming here. Like Mental Health Foundation hai, but you don't see psychiatrists coming here. So this is because it's not been promoted that way. I was talking to Dr. Nand ki hame isko promote karna chahiye. We should also come and be part of this dialogue. It should not be dialogue between people and people. It should dialogue also between us and people so that we understand कि उनकी क्या needs हैं. You know, this is important. And हम कहाँ पे help कर सकते हैं, हम कहाँ understand कर सकते हैं basic needs को. एक और important चीज़ बताना चाहूँगा, young psychologists जो बन रहे हैं, when I was doing psychiatry, हमारा जो ICD-10 DSM-5 है, so I used to be very proud of labeling people. कि मैंने ये डायग्नोज भी कर दिया, अरे मैंने तो इसको डबल डिप्रेशन कर दिया, मैंने इसको तो पर्सनालिटी भी कर दिया, मैंने इसको ये प्रॉब्लम भी ढूंढ ली. एंड द मोर डायग्नोसिस आई मेक फॉर दिस पेशेंट, द स्मार्टर डॉक्टर आई एम. Now over years, now 23 years of my journey of psychiatry, I have realized it's not good to label people. So I don't label my patients at all. I look at their symptoms and try to help them become functional. The whole point of mental health is to make people functional. I could be totally psychotic, but if I'm here talking to all of you nicely, I'm able to do my duty as a doctor, as a spouse, as a clinician. I think that's fine. So it's important to make people functional rather than labeling them, putting them in silos and saying, iska kuch nahi ho sakta, iska kuch nahi ho sakta. I think this is very important. We need to spread this message also. Thank you.
So we've already curated some burning questions from the audience, and we have them right here with us. So let's dive right into it. Our first question is, what led you to develop yourself as an influencer? And is your profession in sync with the goal of self-love? Whichever one of you wants to answer may do so.
Yeah, so I always wanted to be a psychiatrist or a computer specialist. Because I knew 21st century of mind. If you look at the history, as any civilization progresses, your basic needs start getting met, physical security burns much more. So what is left is mind. अब mind बड़ा interesting सा organ है. ये इसको brain बोले. Actually ये भी confusion है कि mind क्या है और brain क्या है. If you really look into this debate, brain तो हमें structure पता है, but mind exactly क्या है? वेद mind को कुछ और कहते हैं, आयुर्वेद का कुछ और system है, spiritual, so everything have different ways of how do you define mind is still we not sure. Mind kahan pe rehta hai, kya hai. But I knew that as we progress, and this is what is happening in India also, as we progress and our basic needs are met, to hamara mind to khali hai. And mind has tendency to be negative. If you sit alone with your mind, it's very difficult. 5 minute nahi baith pate, isliye log meditation nahi kar pate. Pranayam karna mushkil lagta hai. It's easier to go to gym with a lot of loud noise, or easier to watch reels on Instagram than to sit on your own. And so I did this because I love psychiatry and I love talking and sharing with people. And I think this is why I joined psychiatry. And as an influencer, I can go on anytime and talk to people without any barriers. I think this is very, very revolutionizing, and I'm glad and happy to do this.
Is it the same question for all three of us, or is it a separate question?
If you have a take on it, we would love for you to share your views. Otherwise, we have many more questions.
Okay, so please move on then.
Okay. This question is specifically for you. A lot of people in the audience want to know what your journey has been like from an actress to now a very active mental health advocate.
Well, like I said, that acting is still very much my day job. And much like any human who had to go through COVID, I too had my own struggle. I'm sure you all know, if you guys follow people, you know their careers. While the acting profession or the entertainment business is extremely captivating and very, very aspirational, it's probably one of the most unstable jobs that a person can have. And you have to be a little unhinged. I don't want to put a negative thought on it, but knowing that I am willfully choosing a job that gives me no sense of security, no sense of, I can't tell you if I'm going to be working tomorrow. I have no clue. There's no way of me to verify that or to confirm it for myself. But yet, I choose every day to be on a revolving, unsteady plate. So clearly, there must be something off that I'm choosing it day in and day out. But hence, they say that artists are slightly off, and I take pride in it. But again, this is all very poetic. To talk as a regular, functioning human being, the fact that you are in a job that is so unsteady brings with it a lot of mental trauma. And to be able to, like Doctor just said, that our mind is wired to just constantly suss out fear and give us negative thought processes and rumination that, oh my God, what if I don't have a job tomorrow? What am I going to do? How will I survive? And I've gone through this cycle now for almost 22 years. So for 22 years, I have lived the job of an actor where I don't know if I'm going to be working tomorrow. And over a period of time, I realized that I have to find a way to be able to get a grip on my life being a certain way. And the only way that that can happen is if I do a little bit of self-inquiry. And it is the hardest thing to do, to sit with yourself and say, okay, now I'm going to meet myself. I'm going to meet her with all her pluses and all her minuses, and to accept them and to embrace them and say, okay, what can I do to change something that will make my life a little easier for me? And that is what really set me off on a journey. During COVID, I went through a very, very severe slump because I obviously knew that actors were told, अब आप लोग सब घर पे बैठिए, आपकी ज़रूरत किसी को नहीं है. Frontline workers will be out there. We don't know when we're going to open the industry again. And everything that I had ever lived with for 20 odd years got compounded in those 2 years. And I realized that there could very well be a possibility that I may never leave my house again. I will never face a camera again. And the world will go on just as it is going. So I realized that I didn't really have that kind of purpose. And of course, it was all rumination. It was something in my mind because the arts are the things that have saved people from the deepest trenches of mental trauma. And this I know because I went on to study arts-based therapy. I now have a postgraduate diploma in arts-based therapy, and I realize how much it can help people who have difficulty with talk therapy or with people who have a hard time expressing themselves. So only when I sat with myself and accepted the reality of what my life was during COVID was I able to do something to bring about some change. And I remember crying to my daughter who was very young, and she was like, Mama, why are you looking so sad? And I said, you know, I don't know if I'm ever going to have work again. And because she doesn't have a mind that is corrupted by the ego, she just said, so why can't you make your own work? And I was like, that is such a simple solution. Why can't I make my own work? And I decided to go back to formal education. And I did a course in psychology, as in not psychology, but in counseling. I did a course in Buddhist psychology. I moved on to do a postgraduate diploma in arts-based therapy. And I just came back after finishing a teacher's training course in mindfulness meditation. So I just made my own work. And funnily enough, I was leaving this morning and I told her that I'm going for a mental health festival for the first time, and my bio doesn't say actor. So I've managed to actually change my work, and that was because of her. And that's why I'm here today. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing that wonderful story with us. And it really helps us bring light to the fact that, you know, sometimes things don't end where we expect them to, and there's always a way to move forward. As you said, that, you know, we can create our own things. So thank you for that wonderful insight. Moving forward, since we are talking about a social media space and talking about influencing in general, we see mental health content coming up from everywhere, whether you are an influencer for food, travel, counselor, anybody from medical field or beyond the medical field. So how can we validate, or what is the validity of information that is coming to us, and how can we sort of verify that whatever we see on Instagram is not just psychology facts? And
well, honestly, like doctor just said, that he's not that big an influencer, but he's a doctor. I think that is what's important, right? All of us have struggles, and of course it's great. I think it's amazing that we are able to share, because that really makes the burden a little lighter. क्योंकि हमें लगता है कि सिर्फ हम ही तड़प रहे हैं, but like we realize Indian families, we're all dysfunctional. तो सब खुश हो जाते हैं. अरे वाह, तुम्हें भी यही problem है. So it's nice to know that, okay, I'm not suffering alone, and this could be a universal problem happening in different circumstances, but that does not give me the validity to start treating people. I think that is a huge disservice. If anybody is doing it on Instagram without having the right qualification, then I think we're in for a lot of trouble. We can definitely follow people who are extending their skills from beyond a clinic to a telephone or a phone screen to make themselves accessible and help and add a little more benefit to their skills. But I would at no point think that I have the same kind of skills that a trained psychiatrist has. So as an influencer, please, if you are feeling any sort of severe mental affliction, please seek out someone who has the right qualification to guide you. Please don't follow influencers on Instagram. They are not therapists, they are not psychologists. And just because I have found a way to get around a certain trouble a certain way, it's not a one-size-fits-all, right? So we all have a different mental makeup, we all have different circumstances, and when you sit across the table or across a screen with a qualified therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, they've spent their lives learning more and more deeply about various different circumstances to guide you correctly. So I don't think there is anything as influencers in the mental health space, and they should not be followed. Please go to a psychiatrist or a doctor or somebody who has spent his life actually studying the skill and now is offering his services so that it's becoming more accessible to those who at this point may not be able to seek out professional help. So a huge amount of gratitude to you, sir, for doing this.
Thank you. Thank
you. And for putting yourself out there. I know that, it's a paid job, but you're giving yourself out there as a way of serving humanity. But he's not doing it carelessly. So I don't think we should even equate ourselves as influencers with trained doctors.
I would also like to add, so एक कहावत है ना कि don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a Insta page through its followers.
But don't judge Instagram at all. It's all lies.
Exactly.
Most of it is lies. It's curated.
आपको entertainment चाहिए तो शरारत देखो एक बार फिर से.
बिल्कुल. Please, हमने मेहनत करके शो बनाया है.
Entertainment के लिए Instagram नहीं है, और Instagram है भी, तो Instagram पे वो इधर उंगली करे तो 4 नुस्खे आ जाएं और इधर उंगली करे तो 4 नुस्खे आ जाएं, वो तरीका मेंटल हेल्थ के लिए बहुत लंबा नहीं चलेगा. और इसमें है ना, डिमांड और सप्लाई को समझना पड़ेगा. सो सप्लाई क्योंकि कम है, डिमांड ज़्यादा है
जी,
तो ऐरा गहरा नत्थु खैरा कोई भी कुछ भी कहे, उसको पूरी जानकारी है कि नहीं है, जजमेंट हमारे पास होनी चाहिए. और जब मैं बोलता हूँ कि फॉलोअर्स से मत जज करिए, तो उसकी भाव भंगिमाओं से भी मत जज करिए. हो सकता है कि उसके अंदर एक अच्छा ऑरेटर हो, एक अच्छा बोलने वाला हो, एक अच्छा एक्टर हो, लेकिन उसके अंदर हो सकता है कि एक अच्छा साइकोथेरेपिस्ट ना हो. साइकोथेरेपी के लिए सही लोगों की पहचान करिए और समझिए कि काउंसलिंग साइकोलॉजिस्ट क्या होते हैं, अप्लाइड साइकोलॉजिस्ट क्या होते हैं, क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजिस्ट क्या होते हैं, एमफिल का मतलब क्या है, आर्ट बेस्ड थेरेपी का मतलब क्या है, नैरेटिव थेरेपी का क्या है, और साइकेट्रिस्ट का क्या रोल है. और साथ साथ एक सलाह, क्योंकि साइकेट्री भी बहुत पेचीदा हो चुकी है. मैं जानता हूं कि एमबीबीएस में तो बहुत कम लोग हैं, डॉक्टर साहब एग्री करें कि 15 दिन की वो इंटर्नशिप 70% लोग तो अटेंड नहीं करते, भागते हैं सेक्रेटरी से. एंड क्योंकि दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट के 38 हॉस्पिटल्स हैं और उसमें 3 मेडिकल कॉलेजेस हैं जहाँ पे टीचिंग स्टाफ है, और मेडिकल कॉलेजेस में इंटर्नशिप बहुत लोग चाहते हैं करना, लेकिन साइकेट्री से सब भागते हैं। यदि 15 दिन स्किप करने हैं तो लेबर रूम में बिताने को तैयार हैं, लेकिन साइकेट्री से भागते हैं। पर्पज़ ये है कहने का कि साइकेट्रिस्ट में भी काउंसलिंग साइकोलॉजिस्ट की और साइकोथेरेपिस्ट की अप्रोच अब धीरे धीरे बदल रही है। अभी तक हम सिर्फ ये समझते थे कि कुछ एक किताब है केमिकल खिचड़ी, पढ़िएगा, अच्छी किताब है, अमृता त्रिपाठी की लिखी हुई, कि हर सब कुछ जो है हमारे दिमाग के केमिकल्स हैं। तो यदि सिर्फ इस अप्रोच से काम करेंगे तो हम बहुत हद तक इमोशंस को और कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जो लाजमी है समझना एक साइकेट्रिस्ट के लिए भी। धीरे धीरे माहौल बदल रहा है, धीरे धीरे साइकेट्रिस्ट भी जनता से कनेक्ट कर रहे हैं। कुडोज टू डॉक्टर साहब एंड पीपल, यहाँ पे कुछ और लोग भी हैं जो राठी जी को देख रहा हूँ मैं, तो कुछ लोग हैं जो साइकेट्री को समझ रहे हैं और पहुँच रहे हैं लोगों तक। अभी तक अभिभास की भी हमारा एक इंस्टीट्यूट है, पायनियर इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ह्यूमन बिहेवियर एंड लाइफ साइंसेज, यू मस्ट बी नोइंग, उसकी अप्रोच बहुत हद तक बदली है। ये अप्रोच बदलने की ज़रूरत है और डिमांड सप्लाई में दोनों को समझदार होने की ज़रूरत है, और दोनों को समझने की ज़रूरत है कि सही और गलत में फ़र्क कैसे किया जाए। थैंक यू।
I think, Doctor, would you like to say something?
Very basic, even for other things also in life, in news you hear, in social media. So also you should always check and verify. और कोई भी चीज़ फैंटास्टिकल आपको दिखे, कोई भी आपको 100% गारंटी ट्रीटमेंट देता है, तो obviously फ्रॉड ही है। I mean, there's no 100% guarantee in life, you know. So 100% guarantee जहाँ आपको ट्रीटमेंट मिल रहा है या आपको बहुत फैंटास्टिकल इन्फॉर्मेशन दे रहे हैं, या ये मैजिकल चीज़ है, मैजिकल पिल है, मैजिक है, I think this all doesn't work. And just to add to that, again, brain is really, really complex. Just to put it perspective here for everyone. See the amount of neuronal connections in a human brain, single human brain की बात कर रहा हूँ, is more than the number of stars in the known universe. Single human brain की बात हो रही है, तो उसको आप बोलो जी हम समझ में आ गया, अभी नहीं समझ में आया। So पहले हम सोचते थे it's all फैमिली इश्यूज़, फैमिली की वजह से स्किज़ोफ्रेनिया हो गया, फैमिली की वजह से डिप्रेशन हो गया, फिर नहीं ये सोशल फैक्टर्स की वजह से हुआ, इमिग्रेशन की वजह से या पॉवर्टी की वजह से, नहीं अब सोच रहे थे केमिकल्स की वजह से हो रहा है, नहीं, इट्स गोइंग इवन फर्दर एंड फर्दर एंड इट इज़ अ लॉन्ग जर्नी, वी आर लर्निंग ऑन द वे। सो जस्ट पुट दैट इन पर्सपेक्टिव, इट्स रियली कॉम्प्लेक्स एंड डू नॉट एवर, जस्ट लाइक बोथों ने बहुत अच्छे से बोला, आप देख लो जो लोग बाकी बातें कर रहे हैं, इट्स गुड टू स्प्रेड द मैसेज ऑफ मेंटल हेल्थ, बट टू से कि यही ट्रीटमेंट है या ऐसे ही डायग्नोज कर लो अपने आप एक सेल्फ असेसमेंट्स करके, वो सब मत करो। आई थिंक दैट्स वेरी डेंजरस व्हाट पीपल डू।
I think someone wants to ask a question.
क्या यहाँ के क्वेश्चंस पहले पूरा करूँ? As they want to conduct it.
सर वो एज यू सेड कि मतलब कि इंस्टाग्राम में लॉट ऑफ इनफैक्ट नाउ फॉल्स इन्फॉर्मेशन इज नाउ कमिंग अप, like we have now regulatory now authorities in now telecom, in banking, insurance. Can't we have a regulatory authority here also?
So there is a authority, भारत सरकार ने एक अथॉरिटी सेट की है, जैसे RCI रेगुलेट करती है क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजिस्ट को एक लाइसेंस देती है, इसी तरीके से एक अथॉरिटी अभी बनने में है, उसका एक्ट 2021 में इफ़ आई करेक्टली रिमेंबर पास हो चुका था। अलाइड सर्विसेज सारी कवर होंगी उसमें, और उसमें मेंटल हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल्स भी कवर होंगे, फिजिकल हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल्स भी ऐसे हैं जो सब जगह से कवर नहीं है। जैसे आप एक नर्स का डिप्लोमा कर लेते हैं या एक ANM करते हैं, GNM करते हैं, PHNO बनते हैं, उसके बाद भी आपको लाइसेंस दिया जाएगा, एक अथॉरिटी दी जाएगी कि आप प्रैक्टिस कर सकें, और उसमें साइकोलॉजिस्ट कवर होंगे। उसका एक एक्ट बनने के बाद रूल्स बनते हैं, और रूल बनने के बाद फिर उसको सरकारें अडॉप्ट करती हैं। इसके रूल्स कहीं पे फंसे थे 1-1.5 साल से, भारत सरकार जैसे ही उसको भेजेगी सारे राज्य उसको अडॉप्ट करेंगे, एंड तब बहुत जल्दी सारे के सारे प्रैक्टिशनर्स उसमें कवर होंगे।
नहीं, I'm talking of now Instagram.
He is talking about how to verify the information. Do you have any like you know जैसे IRDA वाले रोकते हैं कि आप false information दो?
Do you have an in fact ना वो filter down?
We don't have that.
अभी तो कोई ऐसा नहीं है साहब,
अभी तो freedom of speech
चेक पे चल रहा है अभी।
क्योंकि as you rightly said कि it is doing no more harm than doing no good. तो something should be done seriously about it.
सर ये जब तक आपके पास फ्री मार्केट है तो थोड़ा बहुत फ्रॉड तो हमेशा ही रहेगा। It's the, all we have to do is make people more aware, and that's what we're doing through this medium, and it's important to do that. But ये हमेशा बात सच है लाइफ में, कोई भी चीज़ बहुत चमकती हुई हो तो सोना नहीं होती है मोस्ट लाइकली।
और सोशल मीडिया ना एल्गोरिथम समझता है, वो ज्ञान नहीं समझता, सही गलत नहीं समझता। और अभी आप देखोगे कि ट्विटर जो अब एक्स है उसकी एल्गोरिथम चेंज हो गई। अभी आप उनको पैसा दो के वेरीफाई नहीं कराओगे तो आपके ट्वीट्स के जो रीट्वीट आते थे अब रीपोस्ट आते हैं वो नहीं आएंगे। यूट्यूब की अपनी गणित है ना। इंडिया में यूट्यूब की गणित अलग है और इंडिया से बाहर अलग है। इंडिया पे बहुत से ऐसे इन्फ्लुएंसर बन गए जिनकी बातें क्रिंज है, मिसोजिनिस्ट कमेंट करके भी लोग, आपने देखा OTT तक पहुंच गए, और आप जानते हो मैं किनकी बात कर रहा हूँ, पहुंच गए और उनका बोलबाला है। तो माहौल थोड़ा सा ख़राब है। इसको हम सब ने, इन नन्हे बच्चों को देख के काफ़ी उम्मीद बनती है कि इस सबको हमें संभालना है और इसमें श्रुति जैसों की ज़रूरत है जो लोग वॉइस कर सकें। नहीं तो आप देखोगे जैसे टीवी इंडस्ट्री के ऊपर मैं अभी एक इंटरव्यू सुन रहा था, उसमें बताया गया कि किस तरीके से घंटों की शिफ्ट चला करती है, आपको वहीं सोना है वहीं खाना है और आपको ये पता भी नहीं है कि पेमेंट 90 दिन बाद मिलेगी। कपड़े का व्यापारी भी 1.5 महीने बाद पेमेंट वसूल करने के लिए आपकी दुकान पे आएगा यदि आप व्यापारी हैं तो, लेकिन 90 दिन तक यदि पेमेंट नहीं मिलेगी तो कैसे सर्वाइव करेगा व्यक्ति, है ना। और कुछ ही लोग हैं, जैसे मैं सुशांत जी की बात कर रहा हूँ, सुशांत ने इसको रखा था, और कुछ लोग हैं जो अभी बात कर रहे हैं। इसलिए हम सबको वॉइस, मैं एक सरकारी व्यक्ति हूँ, सरकारी व्यक्ति को तो सरकार से परमिशन लेके बात करनी पड़ती है। और इंस्टाग्राम मेरी फोर्ते नहीं रहे, इंस्टाग्राम को उतना मैं समझता नहीं, पर यूट्यूब को समझता हूँ। तो मैंने सोचा इंस्टा की जगह यूट्यूब तक पहुँचा जाए, लोगों की आवाज़ को पहुँचाया जाए। इस तरीके से सही लोग अच्छे प्लेटफॉर्म्स को चूज़ करें और अपनी बात पहुँचाएं, और सब प्लेटफॉर्म्स को चूज़ करें, सिर्फ इंस्टा तक भी स्टिक ना करें। जो लोग अच्छी बात कर रहे हैं, इंस्टा पे तो फॉलोअर्स बढ़ जाते हैं, ठीक है, क्योंकि वहाँ पर आप देखेंगे कि प्रोपोर्शन है थोड़ा सा बिगड़ा हुआ है, उतने मेल नहीं है अभी इंस्टा पे, और हैं भी तो सिर्फ एंटरटेनमेंट पर्पस से ज़्यादा है। यूट्यूब पे बहुत मेल हैं और वहाँ पे आप लंबी बात कर सकते हैं, पर अभी वहाँ पर थोड़ा सा आवागमन कम है जनता का। तो इन्फॉर्मेशन वेरीफाई करनी पड़ेगी और एल्गोरिथम्स को समझना पड़ेगा हमें। हम यदि बदलेंगे तो एल्गोरिथम्स भी बदलेगी, एल्गोरिथम्स हमें फॉलो करेगी, ठीक है।
Thank you, everybody. We can just take the last question since it's time for lunch.
Sure.
Everybody is quite hungry, I'm assuming. And post that, I'll just get a mic to you. Sanya, if you're here. And post that, if anybody has any more questions, everybody can reach out to them on Instagram. They'll also be available in the foyer. Moreover, we have another influencer panel right after the lunch who can address your questions. So, sir, please.
You can ask your question, we can hear. वेरी नाइस एंड वेरी वैलिड क्वेश्चन। एक तो प्रॉब्लम क्या है, बिकॉज हम इतने किताबों के बोझ के तले दब जाते हैं, हमारे थिएट्रिक्स तो रहते नहीं हैं। सो अभी हम बात भी कर रहे थे बाहर किसी से, इट्स नॉट नेसेसरी दैट आई एम फुल ऑफ नॉलेज एंड एबल टू कम्युनिकेट ऑल्सो। सो कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स आर ऑल्सो इम्पॉर्टेंट फॉर डॉक्टर्स टू डू इट. सो नॉट एवरीबडी इज एबल टू डू इट. दैट्स वाई अ वेरी लर्नड प्रोफेसर, तुम उसकी बात शायद सुनो ही नहीं, चले जाओ, सुन 2 लाइन में आपको नींद आने लग जाए, बिकॉज द वे ऑफ साइंस इज डिफरेंट दैन द वे ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन. बट चेंज हो रहा है. जैसे मैं बैठा हूँ, मेरे यहाँ पे 2-3 दोस्त और बैठे हैं, जो नेक्स्ट पैनल होगा, They're all psychiatrists and psychologists who are doing this. And this is a good feedback for me because मैं पीछे एक साल से ढीला पड़ गया हूँ. So I should come out even more vociferously, come out, do it more frequently, more openly. क्योंकि हमारे साथ क्या होता है हमारा, see my clinic time starts at 10 and it finishes at 9 o'clock at night. तो मतलब you have no energy left to do these kind of things except Sunday. If you do it on Sunday, then your family says कि भैया, मतलब you know. So this is, but we still need to do it as a duty to the society. And you're very right. A lot of harm is happening, and people are misunderstanding. मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा दुख इस बात का होता है कि एक तो borderline personality disorder. यंग लड़कियां ऑनलाइन जाती हैं, वो अपने आप को डायग्नोज कर लेती हैं कि हमें ये बॉर्डरलाइन हो गया है, एंड देन दे स्टार्ट रीड द सिम्टम्स, स्टार्ट बिहेविंग दैट वे. सो साइकियाट्रिस्ट, बच्चों के लिए बता रहा हूँ, सो साइकियाट्रिस्ट वेरी वेरी, इट्स लाइक वो आप ज्योतिष नहीं पढ़ते हो, जैसे आपको फील हो रहा है वैसे ही पढ़ते हो, आपको लगता है हाँ यही मेरे साथ होने वाला, एंड रेस्ट यू इग्नोर. सो इफ यू लुक एट रीड द साइकियाट्रिक्स सिम्टम्स एंड साइंस, आपको लगेगा ये भी मेरे साथ हो रहा है, ये भी मेरे साथ हो रहा है, हाँ मुझे तो ADHD भी है, हाँ मुझे तो बॉर्डरलाइन भी है, हाँ मुझे तो हिस्ट्रियोनिक भी है, हाँ मुझे डिप्रेशन भी है, हाँ मुझे एंग्जाइटी भी है. इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट. सो डू नॉट सेल्फ डायग्नोज योर सेल्फ एंड डोंट लिव इन दैट वे, you know, and don't become a victim of your own self. Don't do that to yourself, please. Please, this is a request.
I think what doctor just said, that also please understand that Instagram is a full-time business now, right? So if I'm choosing to be an influencer, then I'm giving up everything else and just influencing. I don't have time to go study.
साम दाम दंड भेद कैसे भी करके मुझे
तो, and especially for those, and I speak largely for myself, I'm from a generation that did on-ground work, right? We put our feet on the ground, got our hands dirty, and that's how we know how to function. While I understand that the landscape is changing, and of course one has to change with the landscape, otherwise you perish or die. The point is also, do I want to, I'm saying, you know, for a practicing psychologist, psychiatrist who has a healthy practice going, they have to make a difficult choice between, do I let go of patients who I meet and interface personally, as opposed to trying to reach out to an audience that is on a screen. Now that's a choice that they have to make. What choice they make is entirely up to them, whatever serves them well, whatever they feel they serve better. I may feel I'm having more impact on the ground, I don't want to talk to a screen, right? So in that case, I'm going to run the risk. It's not incumbent on the trained psychologists and the psychiatrists to be available online. It is incumbent on the guys online to go out there and study their skills and then come back online. So we can't hold the medical fraternity responsible saying, आप लोग नहीं कर रहे हैं इसलिए दूसरे लोग चूना लगा रहे हैं. वो उनकी problem है. It's the problem of their ethics. And as someone who decided that I wanted to back myself with my skills before going out there, of course I want to use my influence. I want to use it well. I want to impact people on the ground. If I have built a brand of myself for the last 20 years, and I know that I bring a certain amount of credibility, and people will be willing to listen to me, it is my responsibility ethically to make sure that I give information that is verified, that is qualified, and that is responsible. It's on me. It's not on the doctor. I can't say क्योंकि वो gap fill नहीं कर रहे हैं तो मैं जाकर लोगों को उल्लू बनाऊं, right? So I feel it is incumbent on all the influencers out there who have made Instagram a job, and great, kudos to them. I think it's amazing that a system is there that has made things so accessible and democratized it, but it has also led to gross irresponsibility. And that is something that needs to constantly be drilled into the head of someone who's out there saying, आप ये खरीद लो, आप वो बेच लो, आप यहाँ चले जाओ. You have to, the fact that now there are systems where you have to say that this is a paid post or this is a paid collaboration or it is an ad, so that the person who's following you knows that this is a review that is probably colored. So the same thing goes for any other information. If tomorrow I want to be a physical trainer, I have to have basic knowledge about human anatomy, right? I need to understand how an injury could happen. I can't tell someone to lift weights if they have a shoulder injury. So similarly, if I am out there dispensing mental health advice, I have to make sure that somewhere I put a disclaimer saying this is a personal anecdote. This is not someone who has a mental health background in terms of their qualification. if you feel that you have very severe symptoms, or you are not being able to understand what's going, please seek professional help. That needs to be mentioned. I'm not a professional. As an influencer, I'm speaking for people who are out there being life coaches. Now, the thing is that we live in a country where we hail God men. Okay, that's just who we are as people. We are happy to believe anyone who will give us a quick fix. Obviously, all of us want it, right? And हम में है कि अच्छा भाई आपके फैमिली के एक बाबा जी हैं या आपकी फैमिली में कोई ये हैं जो फैमिली के बारे में बताते रहते हैं, तो मैं तो बहुत खुशी खुशी किसी को मान लूँगी जो इन्फ्लुएंसर हैं. I don't look for verification, but it has to become incumbent on people saying you are doing something unethical. It is having real life consequence. किसी को चोट लग सकती है. आप अपना बता रहे हैं हाँ मुझे डिप्रेशन हुआ था फिर मैंने ये करना शुरू कर दिया. आपको तो डिप्रेशन का पता भी नहीं है. And you have to understand, a little sadness is not depression. Having a little bit of rumination is not depression. You have to understand terms that are being peddled have actual weight, right? So you don't just throw them around, and like doctor said, that this labeling business has to stop. सब उसका सहारा लेकर अरे अब तो मुझे ADHD है तो अब तो मैं पढ़ ही नहीं पाऊंगी. क्यों भाई? If you think you have ADHD, go to a professional who will tell you how to circumvent it. You don't carry it as now it's become a fad. Oh, you know, I'm high functioning anxiety. What do you mean high functioning anxiety? It's problematic, boss. Right? But we've made it such, and it has come about because of Instagram, where everything is now a trigger. Why are we throwing these words around and making them regular parlance? Because then people who actually have...
This is so toxic.
Everything is so toxic. Yes, and I feel that the people who actually, like doctor said, have a problem with daily functioning are suddenly being reduced, and their trauma, again another catchphrase, I don't want to use that word, but their trauma is being seriously diluted because अब सबको trauma है, अब तो सबके triggers हैं. नहीं भाई, you don't use such, it's not prose, right?
Trauma bonding, if I would say.
Sorry?
Everybody's trauma bonding these days.
Yes, trauma bonding. Oh my God, like now we have trauma bonding parties. ये सब क्या हो रहा है?
I do hear you, and thank you for sharing that.
So,
very, yeah.
So, जैसे एजुकेशन की बात कर रहे हैं ना, इसमें बच्चों के साथ शुरू करने की जरूरत है. I hope all of you are ambassadors. Mental health ambassadors हो कि नहीं? हाथ उठाओ. हाँ.
Well, everyone should be a mental health ambassador here. सब हाथ उठाओ भाई.
तो स्कूल के अंदर साइकोलॉजिस्ट हैं आपके स्कूल में? काउंसलर साइकोलॉजिस्ट हैं? गुड. तो हम लोग दिल्ली सरकार में 20 स्कूल्स में हमने अभी साइकोलॉजिस्ट रखे हैं जो लाइफ स्किल के ऊपर बात कर रहे हैं. वी आर मेकिंग आवर चिल्ड्रन अंडरस्टैंड इमोशनल हेल्थ, साइकोलॉजिकल वेलबींग एंड बायोलॉजिकल सिम्टम्स. बेसिक से शुरुआत करने की जरूरत है. उन्हें लाइफ स्किल्स बताने की जरूरत है कि सेल्फ इंक्वायरी है क्या, सेल्फ अवेयरनेस है क्या, राइट? एंड वी आर ट्राइंग टू स्केल इट अप टू 100. सो वी नीड टू स्टार्ट फ्रॉम स्क्रैच. शुरू से शुरू करना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो बच्चा, क्योंकि आने वाले समय में चैलेंजेस तो आएंगे. IIT तक पहुंचते पहुंचते आपको समझ में आना चाहिए कि मेंटल वेलबींग के ऊपर कैसे काम करना है, नहीं तो आप उस समय के स्ट्रेस को नहीं हैंडल कर पाओगे. दूसरी बात, हमारे पड़ोस की फूफी में या गांव की चौपाल के अंदर बैठी ताई में और उस इन्फ्लुएंसर में कोई फर्क नहीं है. वो जो बहती थी वो बाबा के पास ले जाती थी झाड़ फूक कराने, और ये इन्फ्लुएंसर कुछ 4 टर्म्स निकाल के कुछ ज्ञान बांट रही है. उन दोनों में खासा फर्क नहीं है. क्यों बोल रहा हूँ ऐसा? क्योंकि आप दूसरों के साथ, आपको पता नहीं है, लेकिन आप दूसरों की प्रॉब्लम के साथ खिलवाड़ कर रहे हो अज्ञानतावश. शायद आपको थोड़ी सी वाहवाही चाहिए, शायद आपको कुछ फॉलोअर्स चाहिए, शायद आपको थोड़े लाइक्स चाहिए, पर उस इंसान का सोचिए कि आप उस इंसान की ज़िंदगी के साथ खिलवाड़ कर रहे हैं. तो उस फूफी में, उस ताई में भी कोई फ़र्क नहीं है जो झाड़ फूक के लिए ले जाती है. जो उसके पास ज्ञान है वो बाँच रही है, और उस इन्फ्लुएंसर में जिसके पास कोई ज्ञान नहीं है वो बाँच रहा है. कोई ज़्यादा फ़र्क नहीं है. दोनों सुपरस्टिशियस हैं, दोनों सुपरस्टिशन को फैला रहे हैं क्योंकि वो बिलीव करने लगे हैं जिसकी उन्हें समझ भी नहीं है, ज्ञान भी नहीं है. तो बचना हमें है. और अपने साथियों के साथ यदि कोई व्यक्ति फेस कर रहा है कोई प्रॉब्लम, तो आप जाके बात करो. पहले शुरुआत करो. हमें बात करनी पड़ेगी. हमें ये स्ट्रेस लेना, अरे मैं एक बात करूंगी तो मेरे साथ ऐसा हो गया तो उसके पेरेंट्स तो ये, हमें नहीं कर लेंगे सब कुछ बियर, फेलियर होगा ना. बात करो. यदि कोई बच्चा स्ट्रेस में है उससे बात करो. आप लोग शुरू करोगे, क्योंकि जितना बड़े होते जाएंगे ना हमारी ईगो बड़ी होती जाती है. आप लोग शुरू करो, घर में सबको बोलो, और हम लोग भी जितना हो सके बात करने की कोशिश करें. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट well-being. है ना? That's how we start.
Thank you. On behalf of the audience and everybody backstage, on stage, in the audience for taking the questions with so much enthusiasm, I would now like to request Sanjay sir, Director and General Secretary MHFI, and Meeta ma'am, Director MHFI, to felicitate the panelists. Thank you.
We thank our panelists for taking their time out of their days and helping us answer every question that we had. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for being such nice people and answering everything. For everybody whose questions have not been answered, we also have a panel of influencers coming in post-lunch. Everybody can go and have their lunch. Please join us back at about 2:30, where we have more performances, including theater. We have more panel discussions, and the entire second half will be as eventful as the first one.
Did you tell them to be back?